I am indeed ready. I've been waiting eagerly to take over, and I'm pretty excited considering we still have 6 hours left. You would think that this is like 6 hours of 1 hour sprints.
Sorry, I just realised I've totally had my mic on mute then. That's for the stream. Sorry guys, I'll just reintroduce ourselves again for the last literally few minutes then. I just realised I have my mic muted. What an idiot. So as I say, yeah, massive thank you to obviously Ryan, Fabian, Jake and Nick in comms team there too. So they've done a fantastic job for the last 3 hours. So yeah, it's been myself, George and Jesse back for the next about 2.5 hours we're going to be streaming for, and then Ryan and Ryan, Fabian and Jake and that will be back again in about 2.5 hours time, and then we'll all be together for the final hour of the race. So yeah, we've got an awesome race to go, and so we're at the halfway mark, got 5 hours 58 minutes left, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. So yeah, George, Jesse, so how are you thinking of this race so far?
Yeah, I'll quickly jump in there, Simon. Thanks for unmuting us all together now, and we can re-chat about things. So, I'll break the ice to welcome us all back, and it's good to be back again. Still 6 hours to go. That's quite a long time, and anything can still happen. But for now, I'm pretty impressed to see how things have been going. I'm glad to see that Racing Line Motorsport is holding down onto their solid P1. I'd known both of their previous drivers and what they were about, Troy Barman, a new name to me, so I was keen to see what was happening there. Interesting as well to see that Josh Martin back in Pirel's Coach Dave team car, they're now in 5th position, so they've been overtaken by those PCDC Motorsports team who we heard come and give an interview. So interesting change up at the top of the order. And of course, the Strello brothers, we talked about them earlier, Jesse, before we left, and now they're in 2nd.
And they've just gone into the pits.
Damn it.
That is close. Commentators curse, George. Hello, everybody. It's fantastic to be back, and thank you to the other commentary team. They absolutely killed it, and I was a bit sad because we have not had a single interview, and they nailed it with the interviews. It was lovely to hear from a lot of the drivers and the teams, but George, you nailed it on the head. The story of this race for me, and it happened in the last 3 hours, it's Steve Strello. He's driven through the field twice now, it seems, and that or actually with Ray, with his brother as well, and they have a chance here. They have enough time, and if they have the pace, that'll be the thing that I am taking special care of to see in this race, to see if the Strello brothers can chase down Racing Line, who's currently leading this race. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm excited to see if they've got that in them as well. We're currently tracking along with Patrick Silva in his Lexus, the number 666. Doing a great job. So, I mean, sixth place, the number 666. If you're a superstitious person, you might have something to say about that. But for now, looking quite comfortable and happy with that top 10 position. Of course, if you can chase down that top 5, you'll be even happier. Of course, that's being held down by Josh Martin up in front. So a little bit of work still to be done here as we switch over to Josh Martin as he pilots around the Coach Dave Aston Martin. He's got a Lexus up behind him. I don't think that's I think that's a lapped car, a bit of traffic. Or is that Silver?
Let me just bring up the relatives for you guys and have a better look of what's going on there. So no, this is actually P9 actually behind him at the moment, and the Lexus is 311.
Yes. So the 311 Favorato behind him. So always interesting to see in these kind of races how everybody kind of spreads themselves out, how they do their pit stops, what kind of strategies they go for. It would be nicer to see if we could get some kind of an overlay at some stage, seeing how many pit stops teams have done, what was done in each pit stop. That would also be cool. You could bring up additional. I'm a data person. Jesse, are you a data person? Or does that kind of thing not interest you at all?
No, George, I love it. I love to know exactly how many pit stops they've made, how fast the stops were, what they did on the pit stops, and I love that sort of thing. I mean, I feel like that's an important part of motorsport, and the more information you have, well, the better you can react to situations, and the better that we can talk about what we're seeing as well. So I'm right there with you. I love data and information, and I love what has happened in the last 3 hours. I swear to you, we finished up our first broadcasting stint, folks. I turned around and I got something to drink. I came back and the top 10 was completely different from where we left off. And if you would compare that to now, it's completely changed on its head again. Highly competitive field. And that's I would have loved to know exactly what happened to these specific drivers. I assume, George, that it's pit stop related and that sort of thing.
I just want to jump in there, guys, actually, because it looks like we've got one of the Kunos devs ready for jumping for interview. So which one of you guys want to actually give Diogo an interview?
This is definitely a Jesse job. Jesse has way more responsibility than me.
All right.
Excellent. I will pull Diogo in, so just bear a second. So how are we doing there, Diogo?
Hello there.
Great to have you on board with us.
Well, thank you very much.
Excellent. So yeah, guys, as I say, this is Diogo. He's one of the ACC devs. He does the 3D. It's the 3D modeling you actually do in ACC.
Yeah, I'm responsible for everything car related.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so Jesse, if you would like to give Diogo a quick interview, that'd be absolutely awesome, and I'll keep an eye on the cameras. Thank you.
Well, just so you know, Diogo, I've never interviewed a developer of a game before that didn't throw me out. So we'll just start off with an easy question before we even get to the racing. What have you been doing during this quarantine period? Clearly, this is what's brought us all together, that and sim racing, of course. So what have you been doing personally?
Well, mostly working, to be honest. In terms of my work, this hasn't really changed much because most of the team are already working from home. So that hasn't really changed. What changed is that now I have even more time to work.
So how do you balance that? How do you pull yourself away from work, say, okay, that's enough, I need some me time? How do you do that now? Obviously, it's probably harder, I would assume.
Yeah, that's a challenge normally. So if you have to work from home, and especially if you do something that also occupies your free time to some extent, that's very difficult to do because you finish working and then you go on the forums and just read what people think. You watch a stream, you watch a video about the game, and then it can happen very easily that your whole life revolves around it. So you have to find that's one of the biggest challenges I have to face normally, not just in this situation, but in my everyday life. But yeah, sometimes you just have to say that, okay, I'm doing something completely different. I'm gonna do some sports. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna watch something. I'm gonna go somewhere. That's how you can do it. Otherwise, you're gonna go crazy quite quickly.
That's fantastic. We're going to get to the team in the race in a second, I promise you. But I think these people at home would love to know, how and when did you join Kunos? How did that come to be?
I can't actually remember the exact year. I think it was 2014. That was the year I got involved with Kunos, and I was doing some modding. So I was working on a car in the community, and it happened to be a car that Kunos was actually licensing for one of the upcoming DLC, and they contacted me and they asked me if I was interested in doing the model, finishing up the model for them, and which is what I did. And then I ended up working for them as a contract artist, 3D artist, and then I managed to, let's say, work my way up, and in the end I became responsible for the whole car production. Let's call it a department, but it's not really a department. It's managing all the 3D modelers, all the texture artists, and making sure that we actually finish the production on time. That's the brief story of my career in Kunos. It's a one in a lifetime opportunity. So when people ask me what I recommend if they want to do a job in this department, I tell them, don't follow me, because my example is really it's not what happens in real life for the most people. So I'm very lucky to have been able to do this.
So that's interesting that you say that, because you said that you head up the modeling, so you're basically responsible for all these beautiful works of art brought to digital life. And I can't thank you personally enough for that sort of thing. But I have to ask you a really tough question. Out of all the cars that you have done, what is your favorite car?
Well, does it include Assetto Corsa as well, or just ACC?
Of course it does.
Well, I always have special memory of the first car I had to do. It was the Audi Sport Quattro. That was a car I drove. That was a car I drove in real life. I had driven that car just before. It was. I used to work as a. Well, to some extent, I still do. I used to work as a car journalist. I worked for an online news site, and I got to take part in a historic rally where I got to drive the Sport Quattro, a car that is worth like 300,000 euros nowadays, and I got to drive it around for 3 days, which was a lot of fun, and it ended up being the first car I worked on, and I was very happy to see that being licensed for Assetto Corsa, and then from there we went to the rally version, the S1 E2 car, and that is again something I've been fascinated with all my life, and it was a very special car to work on. So I would say these two. We have had some really exciting projects, especially when Porsche came into the picture. We got to work on some amazing cars. We could go up to them up close. We could get the reference data. It was really quite something special. But those first two Audis, they remain my favorites, I think.
I'm foaming.
I'm starting to understand why AC or Assetto Corsa and Kunos have a reputation for having some of the best, most realistic models in everything in simulation gaming, because I mean, how could you not with that sort of experience? So you mentioned that you were a motoring journalist at some point, so I assume that you're into at least some sort of motorsport as well. Is that correct?
Well, I was never really a journalist. I'm qualified as a translator and interpreter.
Oh, I see.
And I mostly just translated articles, either Hungarian-related news items into English, or the other way around. So it was never really opinion pieces or anything like that, or testing or cars or stuff like that. It was never like that. It was just essentially translating. So that's how I stayed near the automotive field in my life, all my life, really. And then motorsports was just an interest. I never really worked around motorsports before. Even in the Assetto Corsa times, it was mostly road cars. So we never got this close to motorsports until ACC.
Oh, that's very fascinating. Just in case anyone out there is wondering, we are talking with Gergo, who is a developer for the Kunos simulator. How would you say that in Italian? I could never say that. Kunos.
Kunos. I actually learned.
Simulazione. Am I saying that?
Simulazione.
Say that? Oh, I can't do that, but fantastic. I'm absolutely a fan of the work that you guys have done. If you could have any other job, would you have another job, first of all? And if so, what would it be?
Well, like I said, I'm qualified as a translator and interpreter, so that's what I studied. Well, while I was studying, I have a master's degree in translation and interpreting, so I would probably be doing that as my main job. So
that's I find that really fascinating too. That's your career path that you took. I mean, I presume that you've met some racing drivers over your time working on simulation games. Is there any particular one that stands out, or one that you would like to meet?
It's quite curious that you say that. With the focus shifting on the esports scene these past weeks or months, we got to talk to, especially in relation to the SRO charity event that we did a few weeks ago. We had 90 real-life professional drivers registering for that event, so we got to talk to them, and we had to also manage them for the event itself. So it was really amazing that previously it was quite an event when we got to talk to some of the drivers, and now we suddenly had to talk to almost hundreds of them. So, and it's still going on, because obviously now that the championship is starting, we're still in contact with them regularly. So one of the very positive experiences I've had recently is Andy Suchek, because he literally started sim racing the week before the SRO charity event, and he was hooked instantly. So it wasn't about just being new to ACC, he was actually new to sim racing. He got his first sim rig the week before. He did his first practice sessions in that week leading up to the event, and it was quite amazing to see how he came from a complete rookie as a sim racer and kept practicing, and the feedback he's been giving, it's really very positive. And then he of course he took part in that Silverstone 1.5 hour Silverstone event that you did, so he clearly is enjoying it a lot.
So now I'm going to ask you the really hard question, Gergo, and this is, be very careful how you answer this. Who's your favorite sim racing driver?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would have to say I really like personality and just the general, or him being a general nice guy is Jardir. I would choose him because I'm familiar. I've talked to him. I've talked to him before these events, and he's a very nice guy, and I like his upbeat personality, and I like that he's how amazingly fast he is while talking all the time. That's quite fascinating.
I would have to say that Jardier is in my top 5. He's an amazing talent, and also really funny as well. I hate to tell you this, Gerger. I'm about to go off script here, and I'm going to ask you a question that's not on any list and was not discussed. Are you afraid?
Not really. Not yet.
Well, how do you feel about your coworker, Eris?
That's an interesting one. Well, I mean, it's Saturday afternoon, and I'm spending 12 hours with him. So I think that alone sort of answers the question, because I wouldn't be doing that if he wasn't a good sport and a good companion and a generally nice guy. So his knowledge about anything racing related and car related and handling related, and you really can't ask him a question that he couldn't answer, and that's really fascinating. And he has a very nice work ethic as well. If there's ever friction, there is never friction with Aris. That's for sure.
That is absolutely lovely. I'm sure he would love to hear that had he not been in the car right now. Of course, we are talking with the Kunos racing team, the Kunos Dev racing team. They're in this race. They are in the 20th position. Their car 778, and Eris is in the car right now. That's why I felt it was safe to ask how you felt about Eris. But tell us about how your race has gone today. I mean, we're halfway through now. What are some have been the highs and the lows that you guys have had?
Well, it's been pretty good, I have to say. I was expecting the start to be a lot worse for us, because we had to start from the back, and I was expecting, even if it's a clean start, it's very rare that you have a clean first few laps. So we managed to complete the first stint without any damage, which was very nice to have done, and we made up 20 positions, I think, in the first stint, so that was very good. I was doing the start, and it wasn't really fast driving, it's just staying out of trouble, and that I'm very happy that we managed to do that. And then it was Aris did the second stint, and he did a very good job keeping up the pace and keeping the car in contention in that. And we're still doing top 20, so that's pretty good from where we started from, considering that. And I did another stint. Kevin did a stint, which was, considering how little practice he got due to well, the immense amount of work that he's having to do in these past weeks. It was very good, and then I did another stint, and the car was really fast. I was really happy in that 70 minutes, and now Iris is back. Iris is now double stinting the tires, so this is our double stint, the double stint. So it's gonna be interesting if he holds on to it.
So, how are you finding the track conditions out there? I mean, are they optimum, or is it a bit slick? What are you experiencing?
It's not too hot, so it's quite ideal. It's nothing unexpected. It's not raining, so it's pretty average, I would say. But that's I mean, in the positive sense of the word. It's something we were expecting, and it's that we're not struggling with pressures. We're not struggling with temperatures. It's where we want them to be.
This is pretty fantastic for you guys. It sounds like it's been fairly smooth sailing for your team. I want to tell you something you might find a bit humorous. Of course, we do sort of a team media roundup before these things, and I talk to a lot of the teams and get their impression on what they can expect and everything. And one question I like to ask them, Gergo, is what is their goal for the race? What do they want to accomplish? A third of the field all had the same answer, and I found this particularly interesting because it was, well, we would like to beat the Kunos dev team. That would be a major accomplishment. That's got to be a badge of honor for you guys, that's all they want to do is beat the devs, right? Like, it's so cool, first of all, that you guys even participate with the rest of us, let alone, like, they have a goal that, hey, we want to compete with the Kunos dev team.
Oh, well, that's very flattering, but I don't think that's a really huge achievement, to be honest. I mean, Iris is fast. I'm decent. I'm officially decent. I was called decent by the verified alien Mike Noble. So I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna frame that and put that on my bedroom wall, because I was called decent by an alien. So, but we're not really. We are quite consistent. I think we haven't had a moment in the last 6 hours, so that's quite good. I think that's what you need in an endurance race, and that's why we are 26 positions higher than where we started from.
Because that's right, because you guys started near the back as well. That's something that we hadn't mentioned, as far as I'm aware. I was aware that had occurred, but so what's your outlook? You obviously have half the race behind you, but half of it in front of you. I mean, a little bit less now. Is it just steady as she goes to the finish, or are we going to see some crazy dev tricks come out here?
Well, it's pretty much where we've been in the last few hours. I think the highest position we had was P17. It was just before Kevin took over the car, and then we had a drive-through for track limits, and that put us back into P22, and now we've been P20 for the last 2 hours, I think. So I think that's a realistic. I mean, that's where we want it to be honest. Just not getting into trouble, and do our pace, and that's quite realistic. I don't think we can end up much higher unless something happens to the others in front, because we don't really catch people anymore. We've reached the guys that are actually faster, so I don't think there is much ground to gain, but it's 6 more hours, so who knows.
This is incredible. This is, folks, I can't stress enough, this is a team of 3 drivers, 3 developers of the sim that you're currently watching and racing, and they've committed their entire Saturday to race in this series. Gergo, thank you very much for joining us, and I'm going to hand you over to my co-commentators. Maybe they have something they would like to ask you guys.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, George, if you want to quickly go ahead a second, I'm just dealing with something here, but thank you.
How's it, Gogo? Just a quick shout out from South Africa here. We absolutely love what you guys are doing. I wanted to just know, in terms of these sort of GT3 cars, have you had any real life experience with being able to like get into them, or to get onboard footage, or how does sort of that side of things work?
Well, in my area, I'm responsible for the visuals, so I can go up to them. I do the photo shoots. They let me sit in them, take the photos in the inside as well. I I get to take videos of the, for example, the dash displays, so all that sort of stuff that you see while driving, and my job ends there. So I don't really need the car to to be running to be able to do my side of it. But what we really actually need is data, either setup sheets, telemetry data, and that's what we ask from the teams. That's what we get from the teams. That's what we ask from the manufacturers, and that's what Aris, for example, works with.
That's absolutely insane, though, still for me to be able to go up close. I had sort of the novelty of attending the Kyalami 9-hour that happened for the Intercontinental GT at the end of last year. And for me, just getting to go up to the cars sort of in the pits at the end of the race was almost as incredible as seeing them kind of roar around the racetrack for the 9-hour event. So I am quite jealous that you get to do those kind of things. And I heard you mention earlier to Jesse that you had some pretty interesting sides of Porsche when you were doing the AC side of things. I think for me, that would be a bit of a dream come true, a big Porsche fan from down here in South Africa. Really, from my side, I just wanted to say that it's really cool that you guys have joined up and decided to run in this. It's so cool to see, and you called yourself, decent, according to Mike Noble. I think you guys are more than decent. I think it's great that you guys have decided to do this. It's really cool, and just a big thank you for dedicating your time to come across and chat to us as well.
Well, no worries. First of all, thank you to you all organizing this and making this possible, because that's not something we do or we can do necessarily officially, especially with the driver swap events. That has quite some logistics. So we're quite happy that you're into it, and even with some of the hiccups and some of the stuff that still needs attention, it's very nice that we all get to participate in an event like this. It has two things. First of all, we like to drive, and we wanted to try ourselves in such a long endurance event, and then of course everything that happens we experience it firsthand. So at the end of the day, if you want to make improvements or want to see what the state of things is, that's the easiest way to do, and the most straightforward one.
That's so awesome. When it comes to actual driving gear, I mean, you're competing here. What are you racing on in terms of hardware?
I have an old OSW direct drive wheel. That is the old Argon. I don't know if you're familiar with them. It was the first one that was used for sim racing, I think, and then it became I think it was the Ioni and then the Simi Cubes. So it's still before those. It's a nice sturdy wheel. I think it's gonna go forever. I don't think I'll ever need to replace that.
No, I think they do last forever, and that's quite cool to see. So when it comes down to getting the tweaks and the settings, do you hit up your colleagues to find out what you should be running when it comes to force feedback, or are you kind of someone that likes to go on feel?
Well, there's really not much to it. People like to mystify force feedback, and some developers, but mostly the users. But we always come back to this topic on the forums as well. For the code that takes care of force feedback is really very simple, because what you feel is essentially what comes through the suspension, what comes through the wheels. So it's not something that you have necessarily you want to have a lot more. I would not control, but it's not something you want to shake up with settings, because we usually strive for something natural in the car feel. So the baseline settings that we have in the game, they are pretty good for everything. There's no magic, so to speak. So no magic setting. So yeah, I just go with what we set up as the default. I also helped create the presets for these sort of type of wheels, and I think they work quite well without any additional tweaking.
So you heard it here, folks. If you're feeling that you need some sort of magic setup, it doesn't exist. The stock standard ones are the way to go, and I can get pretty much the same sort of feels on that. I found that I just booted up, and my Thrustmaster did what I wanted to do, and I haven't really changed anything too fancy on that. Just dialed it down or up for strength feels. So from my side, I'm pretty much ready to hand you back over to our boss man, Simon. Simon, do you have any questions of your own before I continue to use and abuse the power that you've given me?
Well, I mean, there's obviously a few things in the chat I'm just seeing here that people are asking. So they also want to know a bit more about the GT4, if you're allowed to speak about that, Diogo.
Well, I'm certainly, we can find questions I can answer.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's got anything specific regarding the GT4s in the chat. If you have, just obviously post that there, and I'll reask Diogo while he's in the chat with us. So yeah, obviously today we've got obviously with the coronavirus, and obviously everyone's obviously having to stay home. I guess for less of you guys, because you work from home, it hasn't really affected your sort of role in what you can sort of produce with your time frame, with obviously reducing the GT4 pack and stuff, or is it that you are limited because you can't get out to track to get the info from the cars?
No, because we did most of the research last year, so it was actually quite funny how no one picked up on it, that we were doing these on-site events last year at Nürburgring, Spa, etc., and I was there with the team, and I spent literally the entire weekend in the GT4 paddock, and no one noticed me. I was even wearing a Kunos shirt, so it wasn't really a smart thing to do, but no one really picked up on it. So that's still quite funny. But it doesn't really affect anything that we have this situation, because we are able to work, and the material that we need was already sourced before, mostly throughout the last season.
That's it. So someone was just asking, are the GT4s done visually wise? So as in, you've done all the graphics and everything for that? That's what someone's just mentioned in the chat.
Well, it's in progress.
In progress, right? Okay, so
yeah,
we are due to obviously be sort of on time then with the. What was the official date you've released there for that?
We didn't specify a date. I think the official announcement said summer.
Summer, right? Okay, so there you go, guys. So that's when we're looking to get a GT4 pack around the summertime. That could be July, August, September. So yeah, plenty of time frame to work around. Yeah, I mean, obviously Jesse's obviously answered a lot of questions. We've also had George ask some interesting questions as well. I'll just see if anyone else in the chat has got anything else quickly before obviously we let you get back to what you're doing. GT4 is able to race on the same track. So someone's got an idea asking if GT4s, will there be such thing as like a multi-class with the GT4s and GT3s?
In single player, no, because it's going to be a separate season, like the 2018, 2019 seasons are separated, so it's going to follow the same logic. So you're not going to be, and the real life SRO series is not multi-class. So there is really no reason to put them together, and then it would obviously create a lot of issues that we were never prepared for in terms of AI behaving in multi-class traffic, etc. So it's not going to be possible there. Yeah. But in multiplayer, it's only going to be up to the organizer of what they do with them. So.
I mean, yeah. I mean, just to say, from what the community's been coming, I mean, that's what they're wanting. They're basically saying to us, you know, we want to have multi-class. We want to be racing GT3, GT4, just to sort of mix it up a bit. So, I mean, obviously, I don't think many people are going to be too interested about that being in single player, but more, obviously, it says server side. If we can, you know, create that on our service, I think that's definitely a way forward.
Yeah, that's definitely something that is something very interesting, and then something we are also. So if you do these sort of events, that would be something we're interested in, because it's actually a nice mix, because it has the pace difference that makes multi-class enjoyable and not just frustrating. Because if the speed difference is not that much, it's really only just frustration that you get out of it.
Yeah, I can understand. Pretty much like if you're stuck behind sort of like an AM driver and you're a pro driver type thing.
Exactly,
yeah, if you haven't got the pace between it. Yeah, I totally understand. I'll take one more question from the chat there. So someone's saying, what's your favourite GT4 car you've modelled?
Well, I'm not direct. So basically, I'm supervising all the artists who are modelling the cars, and I take over and put them in the engine. I do the materials, I finish them up, I do all the finishing on them, and then I supervise also delivery, production, and that sort of thing. But I get to work on all the cars, but I don't do them entirely. So every artist gets to do let's say 80-85% of the job on any given car, and I do the rest for all of them. One that was, I could probably highlight.
I guess you're sort of limited on telling us what manufacturers are in GT4s at the moment.
Yeah,
I totally understand.
It's pretty open by now, because we've semi-confirmed what it's going to be, and it's also quite straightforward. I mean, it's really just one season that we can do, because we had the last season that actually happened in real life that is worth simulating is the 2019 European Series. So whatever you can see there is
pretty much the cars we're going to get in the game is basically
it's not a secret really. I mean, it's obviously not going to be the American Series, it's not going to be 2018 Series, it's not going to be the British GT GT4 cars, because it's a completely different format and lineup. But one I really enjoyed working on is the KTM, for example. That's a very unique car in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. I do actually quite enjoy the KTM and the other sims, especially AC as well. So yeah, that's quite interesting to know that. I think that's wrap up the questions in the chat there. So I think we've answered pretty much everyone's questions there. So yeah, really appreciate obviously the insight there, Jurgo. Really appreciate obviously what you guys are doing with the sim. You know, we're obviously 100% behind you guys, supporting you, and obviously, you know, whatever we get from these races, obviously we share this information to you to obviously, you know, try and improve the game as you know, best we can, really, to obviously give the overall experience to everyone what they want. So
this is extremely valuable information for us as well, because well, our testing capacities and our testing capabilities are quite limited in terms of, you know, we never get to test with more than 100 clients that these events have. So it's really something that we want and need to see from up close, because that's organizing something like this in a closed environment, that's not something feasible.
No, I totally understand, and obviously, you know, I think a lot of people are looking at this is, you know, that they're looking from something to go from iRacing to the next thing, and obviously they're looking at like leagues like ourselves, you know, that's going to be running these big endurance events, because, you know, everyone wants the big 24-hour races. That's our goal. That's what we want to do in Redline, you know, and obviously everyone else obviously wants to follow suit there. So yeah, I think, you know, you guys have done an absolutely awesome job with, as I said, with the GT3 cars here. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic to drive with. I mean, the graphics wise, yeah, it looks absolutely stunning. So, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, to be honest, hats off to you guys. It's been absolutely awesome to see this game obviously progress for the past year. So yeah, great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then, well, thanks to you for organizing these events, and then obviously all the feedback we get from you, because you really use the software to the fullest, and that's very valuable.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jurgo, for coming into the interview today. And Jesse, George, you got anything else to say before he goes, or?
Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, the chat, Gergo, just so you know, I mean, people love your work. I mean, the chat's full of people thanking Kunos, you specifically, for your work. There's a lot of passion behind the Kunos brand and the various simulators that you guys have made, and it's great. And there's another side to them, guys. There really is. I mean, they're accredited sim racers as well. I mean, from competing in SRO events. I mean, Gergo specifically has finished on the podium here at RLM in a Bathurst Pro-Am race. I mean, their team's finished in the top 10 in other races. It's incredible, and couldn't be more thankful for what you guys do.
Well, thank you very much. It's very nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, from my end, I also just want to extend my thanks, and of course popping in and answering so many questions. It's always great to have you guys come through, and so yeah, just a massive thank you.
No problem. It's been a nice change from the shouting Greek. but yeah, it's a lot of fun in the group voice that we have. So, but thank you very much for having me. And I wish you good luck for the rest of the broadcast.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Jurgo, and I hope you guys obviously finished a very good race. Where are you guys at the moment? You're currently P21 right now. So
P21, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, we've still got 5 hours 19 minutes left of the race, so a lot can obviously happen. Hopefully, we might get a bit of rain. We'll see. But yeah, good luck to you guys.
I was really hoping for the rain, but it never came, and now it cleared up a bit. So it really has to happen in the next one.
Oh. We haven't lost you there.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
No worries. All right. Cheers, Jurgo. Thank you.
Have a good one, Gergo.
Thank you.
That is fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, we I did not expect that interview to happen so quickly. I got told, hey, Gergo's coming on to the next thing. Gergo was in here and he was answering questions like a champion. He didn't even break a sweat. I even asked him about his co-worker and teammate, Eris. Eris is, by the way, the one I assume where he was referring to that was shouting in Greek. Man, fantastic to have that sort of dialogue between a developer and a team and everything, and couldn't do what we do without them, certainly.
Absolutely, Jesse. I mean, yeah, that was pretty awesome to obviously have Jergo in here to obviously go through that information with you guys. So, yeah, no, definitely an honour to obviously have people like that obviously helping obviously make this game what it is and what we want it to be. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, we've still got 5 hours, 18 minutes left of the race. So far, I mean, it's I would say it's quiet before the storm. I'm going to do the commentator's curse here.
I have already cursed way too many people in this race, and I'm pretty sure they will never forgive me for doing that. But yeah, we've got over 5 hours of a race left to do, and there's still all to play for. Oh, and speaking of which, there's a bit of a bump there between, I believe that's the 66 Mercedes.
18th place.
Giving a bump to the 838 there. That was 4th position, and he might get that done coming down into the first curve, and he does. A hop, skip, a jump, and a bump, and all of a sudden, turn 1, you are in front of the car you were previously behind. So,
Jesse,
18th position. Yes,
Jesse,
George.
Is that was that him 18th and lapping himself from at 10th place though?
Yes, I believe that is indeed, or at least getting 1 lap back in that case.
Yeah, it's so fun to kind of follow along and see where the drivers come out, because obviously that's something that people don't often think about, is that you have a bunch of drivers in your car. Not all of them are exactly evenly matched. You try and find drivers that are of similar skill level and similar consistency, but as it is, no two unique drivers or no two drivers exist that are exactly the same. There always will be a bit different, and you get a whole mix and batch of drivers coming in. You might have had a bad pit stop and put yourself towards the back where you shouldn't be in terms of your lap time. And we currently look around the track. We see David Fumanelli, the number 196 Racing Line Motorsport Mercedes, coming down that west straight, which of course he's currently holding down P24. P25 is about 10 seconds down the road behind him. Up in front of him, you can't see any cars that he is making up for position. So of course, this is where you find yourself in a little bit of a lonely isolation, and it's always difficult to try and keep your headspace. Of course, in that racing mode, you can kind of find yourself lulling off, trying to find yourself. You kind of find yourself maybe not on the lap pace. It becomes quite difficult to maintain that kind of focus, and that's what I love about endurance racing, is that you really need to just have people that can keep on pushing.
Absolutely. George, we've got another guy in for interview here. Would you like to interview this man?
Of course, I can interview him.
I will pull him over to you now. So yeah, welcome there, Elmar.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you.
How are you doing this evening? Do you wanna just tell us a little bit about the team that you're driving for, and where you guys are running at the moment, so we can just follow over and all catch up with who you are and what team you're driving for?
Well, we are doing some stints on one tires at the moment, so everything is fine so far, which is surprising because we expected some great loss of time, but everything seems to be fine. Yes, we are maybe slow at like 1 second per lap on our worn tires rather than new ones, but the car is not oversteering, which is very nice because it's better to have a understeering car on a worn tires rather than oversteering, because it becomes very dangerous to drive. After this stint...
Sorry, Elmar, can you just let us know which car number you're in and what position you currently are, just so we can put you on screen and then people know who we're obviously talking to with the team there?
We are the 144 car on a Mercedes. We are P9 at the moment. I think we will gain some more positions after the some drivers in front of us will do their pit stops. So generally we should be at P7.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're from the Russian Bears racing team, I believe. So Petrov, am I saying his name correctly? You can also give us a name correction if we're saying names incorrectly now, so you can help us with pronunciation. Is it Maxim Petrov in the car at the moment?
Yes, that is Maxim Petrov at the moment. So our other drivers are Michael Statsenko and Grigory Ivanov. So I heard that some people just think that there is another driver whose name is Grigorov. His second name is Grigorov, Ivailo Grigorov, and some people just think that that is our driver, but he's not.
Yeah, I noticed there was another Russian name floating around as well. So how do you think the race will progress now? Do you feel that we might see a bit of rain a little bit later into the evening, or do you think sort of the static conditions that we've seen are just going to be kind of consistent as the race progresses? Still 5 hours to go.
Well, of course I cannot know if there will be a rain or not, but if there will be some, of course that will change everything, because we do not know what to expect. Yes, we have tested our car in rain conditions, but again, it always will depend on when the rain will start, which part of our stint the rain will start, and will we lose the time on additional pit stop or not. So yes, if the rain will start, of course we will have to be very careful with the car, but I think there will be no rain, because it's quite difficult to drive a car in the rain.
Yeah, and I think especially at Suzuka with so many fast corners and a lot of cars and dangerous curves, it could be quite scary if it gets wet. So we've just seen, I think it was Patrick Silva going past on Petrov, just going past, obviously Petrov just letting him through. That was getting blue flag, letting him through safely. Kind of, what is the idea behind what your driver is currently doing in the car at the moment? If you just said, just maintain pace, just keep it as it is, maintain your tires, or are you guys like trying to push for time at the moment?
Well, the race is 12 hours, which is very long, and of course we try to, first of all, not to crash the car, not to get some drive-through penalties, because that in that case we will be dropped too far behind, and we just try to drive as carefully as we can, just keep our pace, and be careful with the overtakes, with some blue flags and so on. Of course, our main goal is just to finish the race.
Yeah, you have to finish the race to actually have something to talk about, right? I mean, at the moment you guys are running within the top 10, P9. That's a phenomenal drive at the moment. I'm keen to see how you guys do a little bit later on. What sort of time do we see you going back in the car?
I've actually done all my stints, so I've already driven all of my stints. So as far as we are 4 guys in the team, so all the other drivers will do all their stints now. It's Maxim Petrov who is finishing his 3rd stint, so only Michael Gritsenko and Grigory Ivanov will drive for remaining 5 hours or something.
Awesome. Well, Almar, thank you so much for coming through and coming for the interview. It's been great to have some of your insight. The Russian Bears, I've been following you guys when we had the Super Pole qualifying. I loved all the names of your drivers as well. And, to me, I love to see all the different nationalities that I get exposed to when I join the RLM side of things. So it's always great to see everyone coming out and doing their best, and full teams that have, all of the same drivers from the same place. It always adds a little bit of extra specialness. So you guys doing the Russians proud up in P9, and I hope you have a great race going on.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope everything goes very nice.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Elmer. So see you again later on.
See you.
There we are. So Yeah, nice to see some getting more people in for interview there. So, yeah, guys, if you are just watching the stream and you are part of your racing team, you do feel free to come into the interview box there, because during this obviously time, around sort of halfway mark of the race, it is pretty quiet at the moment, with obviously everyone pretty much mixed up in their grid positions due to different pitch strategies and stuff. So, not too much action going on at the moment, just literally people overtaking back markers and stuff like that so far. As soon as I see some action, I will obviously put it straight on the stream. So yeah, yeah, during this obviously quieter period, like I said, just jump into the interview box. We'll get you in, and obviously we get you find out a bit of information about your team and your strategies and stuff. It'd be really good to know, especially obviously as we were expecting some rain, and it looks like it's sort of cleared up a bit now. So I'll just give you some weather details at the moment. So it is cloudy, 20 degrees Celsius, with track temps 20 degrees as well. So the ambience 20, track temperature is 20. So looking at 7 p.m. So it looks like as we are in Japan, we will be going dark, I'd imagine, in the next sort of half an hour to an hour. It's really going to start getting really dark. So this is going to be really interesting, especially for our onboard cameras when we've got them on the front splitters and stuff, so you can actually see from the grill there and looking out, so you get the headlights on the ground. So they're going to look pretty awesome a bit later on when you get to see those cameras working, from what we do in testing wise. Jesse, have you got anything you want to say?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to talk about the winning car, or the #1 overall team, for a moment. Just heard from the Russian Bears, and that was all fantastic to listen to from you, George. By the way, I learned a thing or two, I think, about the interview process. I think I should have asked Gergo a few more questions now, but moving right along.
I don't think we could have asked him any more questions. I mean, we had Gergo in here for what felt like we just kept abusing it. Simon wouldn't let him go.
Well, I thought I threw him the curveball with Eris. I didn't know what he would say to the Eris question. And he goes, don't care. I'll answer whatever you got. And I was like, I'm out of questions now. You've answered all the hard ones. But all jokes aside, moving on to the leader of the race. That is, yes, the 191 Mercedes team. That's Racing Line Motorsports. As far as I can recall, they won the pre-qualifying event for this race. I'm unsure if that's entirely true, but their team boasts an impressive roster. Of course, we have Troy Barman in the car right now. This team has, I think, 3 teams in this race. We saw one of them sort of in the middle of the pack, and of course this one has been up at the very front of it for the past, 4 or 5 hours now. But they all of their drivers boast an impressive stat sheet just inside RLM in particular. I mean, we're talking about Samuel Ratz, who has podium finishes in endurance races, and Giuseppe.
There we go.
I think.
Yeah, sorry,
team. Yes,
Jesse.
Simon.
It looks like Jake might be coming in with some information regarding some race incidents. So, Jake, are you there?
I am indeed, Simon. Thank you very much for introducing me back into your comms box. Yeah, it's been a little bit more relaxing for the stewards the last couple of hours, getting to watch a little bit of the racing finally. Had a few warnings given out and a few small time penalties be applied at the end of the race, but we've got a few DTs that have come across the last sort of hour or so. One for driver number 4 turning around 72 at the chicane. One also for car number 42 trying to unlap themselves, unfortunately taking out a fellow driver, number 38. Now you might have noticed the drive-through for car 999, the RLM team. Looks like unfortunately they were faster coming out of the chicane but caught the back of the 894 car, spinning them off the track, so it's a drive-through for them. And also just had a drive-through for car number 33 trying to unlap themselves and unfortunately getting it wrong, taking out the car that was actually letting them unlap themselves. So bit of a shame, but it's a little bit quieter for us guys.
Well, that's fantastic. Get a minute of breathing room, because my goodness, it was crazy to start with. And Jake, just talking to some of the other members of Race Control, Tom Roberts and Stephen report that in Race Control, it's been incredibly calm. Anybody coming in to report that there was incident on the track, they've done it incredibly respectfully and everything, and that is such good news to hear. I mean, that everybody is behaving properly and treating even a an unfortunate incident with the respect and civility that it deserves. And Jake, can't thank you enough personally for being here to tell all of us the penalties and things that have occurred in the race, keeping us up to date.
Yeah, I mean, even the guys that have come in and reported an incident, and we have come back to them and told them that actually the penalty has gone against them, have been very civil, taken it on the chin and accepted the penalty, very, very well, which is what we like to see in RLM. It's good sportsmanship from everybody.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you for that, Jake. So yeah, if there's any more incidents, do obviously keep us updated. But yeah, thanks for your work beyond in the background there, guys. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say as well, Jesse, at the moment, it looks like we are having a small battle going on at the moment between P17 and P16. So I managed to just find something in the grid at the moment. So it looks like something going on. So he was Donato was pretty up close to the Mercedes a moment ago before we got down to should we say the last chicane. I don't know if you want to call it Casio chicane. I mean, we had this talks, didn't we, the other day about...
You just banned us. You banned us from calling it that, and now you've just done it. I love it. This is my favorites.
This is it, yeah. So
every time it's come up, I've been like, "Don't call it the Casio chicane, George." And Simon's just let us maybe use it there. But
for those at home that may not understand what we're on about, Suzuka is a very interesting track layout based on the fact that its corners change names about as often as seasons do. And it was hard for us in the broadcast team to nail down exactly what they were actually supposed to be called. We sort of rectified that, obviously, to get a more streamlined process for you guys so you could understand what we're talking about. But it wasn't without a lot of questions, was it, George?
No. We were, yeah, I mean, it seemed like that was a sponsorship related thing, so we just went up with calling it the chicane towards the end of the day. But yeah, a lot of people may know it as the Casio chicane, the Casio triangle, whatever you want to call it, the final chicane. It possibly causes a lot of cars to have some problems. We're currently riding on board with Fidelak, who is currently right behind of a leader who's in front of him, Petrov, of course. That we were just talking to the Russian Bears racing team as well, and Fidelak has a whole grill full of Donato right in front of him. So right now, a bit of a difficult situation. These two want to unlap themselves from the P9. Petrov going to pull to the side. Good sportsmanship there. Doesn't want to interfere with this battle, and of course they're going to go side by side, or try and go side by side through. But Fidelak, he's just let Donato ride right on through, and yeah, Donato getting the move done. Fidelak not really even putting up a fight to Donato there.
No, I mean, I guess they don't want to be sort of battling too hard this time on. I think that what they're trying to do is just be wise with their tyres. They know they've got a double stint at least 2 sets. I mean, this is where they're obviously now thinking about strategy, because the rain hasn't come yet. So they was relying hopefully on to get a free set of wet tyres, but as it stands, that we've only got the 9 sets of dry tyres they got to use throughout the whole 12-hour race. And obviously that's when they use obviously the dry tyres. Obviously we had the bit of the practice to start with as well. Obviously they still use your tyre sets. So yeah, a lot of these guys are now obviously who pushed really hard earlier on, hoping to get a wet race and obviously then gain maybe 1 or 2 sets of wet tyres, are now going to be suffering later on in the race, where they're going to have to double stint maybe 2 or 3 sets of tyres just to finish. So yeah, as I was saying, it's really going to mix things up in the next sort of 5 hours. I mean, the last sort of half hour of the race, I think it's going to be absolutely amazing with how we've seen all of our other races go, especially our 6-hour race. We had sort of like the top 20 there just really sort of getting mixed up as well with the overall position change, because again, you've got the drive-through penalties, so anyone makes a silly mistake taking out a back mark or anything, that's a minute that costs them. And I mean, if we take our red line team 999, they was, I think it was about the P10 at one point, and now they're down to P19. So with that obviously drive-through penalty they got earlier on, so so that 1 minute is obviously cost them 9 positions. So yeah, it's harsh, but it's fair. I mean, that's obviously what we wanted to do with Red Line Motorsport. Is we want fair but harsh penalties there for the racing here to make everyone understand that crashing someone out is not obviously welcomed.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense to me, Simon. I mean, it's fair to let people through who are trying to push for position. If you feel like you're going to just hold them up, why not let them get through and see if they can get their way through the order. If it's not going to cost you anything and you feel like you're going to save yourself in the long run, it's always better. And Simon, I don't know if you saw, but Sebastian Brunier is waiting for an interview there as well.
I did not actually. He just caught my eye there. I mean, unfortunately, I've got a huge 49-inch screen, 4K screen in front of me with loads of windows in front of me.
Flexing,
so do you know what I mean? I mean, so I literally have to move my head left and right to see what's going on in the screen.
49 inches, Jesse. Did you hear that? Hey, you heard it here first.
Listen, I don't have several 4K screens, but I can't wait. Let's get Sebastian Brunier in here. I will hit him with the hard questions.
Yeah.
I know you
Open
will.
Visor Racing Club, car number 777, Simon. Currently, they've got Stephen Higgins in the car. They're running 35th.
There we go. So, how are we doing, Sebastian? You have to probably unmute yourself there a second. I have you need the role to. Yes, you can talk. Oh, we're just waiting for Sebastian to. Oh, I don't. Maybe he's not ready yet. I think he's just pulled himself out of the chat. So just.
We will give him a moment. You know what it is? He doesn't want to answer the questions that I know. He knows what I'm going to ask him, and he doesn't want to answer those questions. Seb, you can't run forever, mate. Eventually, you will be interviewed by me, and you will like it. All jokes aside, he has a very interesting sim racing setup that I want him to explain to you folks at home. I think you'll find it quite interesting, actually. His setup and the way that he races his open visor racing team that he is on is also a very interesting collection of drivers as well. Long-time runners here in RLM. And friend of mine, I think I could say, as we continue here. Just crossed over 7 p.m. a few, 11 minutes ago, I suppose. And we have less than 5 hours to go in the Coach Dave Academy 12-hour of Suzuka. And it's been a absolutely fantastic race thus far. And let's see. Seb, are you there now?
We're waiting till he takes his mic off as soon as he's available.
Yep. All right. So, George, it's getting to that point. I think it's time we talk about it. It's getting dark. The headlights are on. Visibility is going to go down. Will visibility cause incidents in the night portion of this race, do you reckon?
So, I'll just drag myself from without like the front of your Greyhound bus there quickly.
Hey, I got you finally.
You did, and hopefully not. I mean, hopefully the nighttime doesn't do anything. Hopefully they don't get distracted by the beautiful lit up Ferris wheel that shines all the beautiful green flashing colors. Hopefully they make it RGB soon. That's just a personal request from me.
RGB.
I would like Simon. Let me have my one bit of color, okay? I would like an RGB illuminated Ferris wheel at Suzuka, even if it's just for Christmas. You know, that would be nice. You know, so hopefully the visibility won't be a factor, but it will. I mean, you know, it's inevitable that these kind of things will happen, and I feel like it's not easy to predict something, but as soon as you take away that factor of light, especially in cars like these, where the lighting factor is actually made to a point where you do have to make use of the headlights and it becomes very dark everywhere else. Blue flags being waved there. You see cars jumping out the way like they should be doing as we watch Benny Benzel for PC DC Motorsports continue to lap around, currently holding down position 4. What a great drive from these guys, of course, holding on to that and continuing to chase down for that podium spot if they can. You know, at the moment, I don't think there's too much in terms of positional change that drivers are going to be aiming to do. They just really want to continue to just try and extend their tires. It is going to get a little bit cooler. I see that we are down to 20 degrees ambient and a 20 degree track temperature as well. It still indicates that it's cloudy and I can see those clouds in the sky. And as it gets darker, we can still hope for some rain. I mentioned this off stream to both Simon and Jesse earlier. I did a rain dance hoping for some rain at Suzuka, and it actually brought some real life rain here to South Africa with hail and all.
Oh my goodness.
I've adapted the rain dance. I've sort of mastered it to hopefully be a little bit more Japanese flavored, and hope that within the next 4 hours 54 minutes that we do see a little speck of raindrops hitting the dashboards of these GT3 cars.
I
meant the window, the windscreen, not the dashboard. It can't.
Yes, if it hits the yes, that would
be a problem.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I think it would not pass any sort of tests if it was hitting the dashboard, right?
That would be a MOT failure, but we're currently watching Benny Benzel, as we said earlier, currently in the 4th position. That's PCDC Racing. Heard that excellent interview with a member of one of their team with the other commentary team. I thought that was incredibly fascinating to hear from those guys. Of course, we know these guys are the real deal. They've got a podium finish in endurance racing here in RLM as well. The 3 Hours of Bathurst, they finished 3rd. So, I mean, they are no slouch indeed. And in fact, several other teams and people told me about this team in particular, said that they would certainly be ones to watch, and it has turned into that as well.
Right, Jesse, just let you know that looks like Sebastian is now ready finally, so I will bring him into the comm box here to let you have your way with the interview with Sebastian. So there we go. Welcome, Sebastian.
Welcome. Sorry, I forgot to activate push to talk. That's why I couldn't talk, and it's different on the mobile anyway.
Well, Seb, of course, you're a long-time runner in RLM, and so is Open Visor. Always great to have you guys there. But before we get into how your race has gone and all that stuff, could you tell the people at home how bizarre your racing setup at home is?
For an old bloke, I would say it's more future-proof than anything, but it can be surprising because there is no monitor in front of the wheel. I just have a seat, a wheel, the pedals, and the VR headset. So it makes streaming a bit of a challenge, but for driving, it's the only thing you need.
Yes, so Seb's setup includes no monitors. He's shown me a picture of this before where it's just his sim rig is sitting up against a wall in his house, and there's no monitors in front of it because he races exclusively in VR, which, by the way, what a robust PC you must have to race in VR in ACC, one of the best looking sims of all time, with a VR headset. That's an incredible setup to begin with, but he has no monitors. And this man is married, and his wife must think that he is the funniest man in the world because he's just crammed into a corner not looking at anything because he's got his headset on. But I could never do that. I am addicted to having a triple monitor setup. I could never fully ditch it. What kind of setup, Seb, if you're still there, what kind of setup did you have before you had VR?
Oh, before having VR, before the Oculus CV1 was out, I was just playing on a TV set, so it was not the best experience at all. There is a bit of lag on the TV, but when VR was out, it was natural for me to try it, of course, to understand how immersive it could be, and I've been hooked up immediately. And I've upgraded since. I have the HP Reverb now for a couple of months, and now we in the HP Reverb, it's like having a monitor in front of your eyes. The resolution is really there, so it's even more immersive. But of course, the PC is sweating almost as much as me while driving because it's hard to drive ACC in VR, like you said. But it's one hell of a ride, so it's definitely worth it.
That's fantastic. I could not run my VR headset with this many cars and it not melt down, Seb. But that's all fantastic. It's incredible. It's a testament to like that. I mean, there's no going back, and that's the thing I try to tell people. Whenever you get into VR, there's no going back, is there, Seb?
No, there is no going back because suddenly everything becomes scale 1. there is no discussion about field of view or anything. It's scale 1. You have the perception of depth. You see everything in 3D. So it's really like you're in the real car. And at first, when you put the headset on, you don't want to drive immediately. You're doing your own scrutineering, looking at everywhere in the car. So you were saying that I should look bizarre in the corner of my room with my VR headset on. But the first time it's even worse because you're not even looking at the wheel. You want to adjust the mirror inside. You want to touch the dash. It's really crazy. And running in VR is about also forgetting a bit about the eye candy, but to the profit of immersion, because immersion is absolutely fantastic. So yes, it's hard to run in VR, and some people say it looks awful when you put too low. I'd say if you have time to look at the eye candy, maybe it's because you're not pushing enough. I have every settings to the lowest I can, and I can tell you, I don't have any time to look at what is missing or what is popping in front of me, because there is always a breakpoint to nail, and an apex to nail, and some other cars to race against. So VR is fantastic.
That's fantastic. That's incredible. You can hear the passion. This man loves VR, and why not? And so tell us a little bit about the 777 Aston Martin's race. It hasn't been quite smooth sailing, has it? And what do you expect out of the final 4 hours 48 some minutes?
Yeah, it has been a difficult ride since the beginning. In the first lap, there were a few incidents. We got collected by a spinning car. Nothing really Tom could do to avoid it. Almost 1 minute of damage. That pushed us really quite further back in the positions. And after a few things, we got handled a penalty because I had, and say it this way, a small contact with the driver. I had another contact before. I haven't complained, but he did. I had a penalty. That's how it goes. No worries. And we also had the peak limiter bug when Stephen Higgins did his first stint. So it was shown on his screen that the pit limiter was activated, but it was not. So we got a stop and go penalty for that. So yeah, quite a bit difficult in the beginning, and also we had a problem with Mark that could not connect to the server. So we have rearranged the stint schedule. So it was quite epic, to say the least, the first 2 hours. But since then, the race has settled down a bit, and we found our pace really at the back. But the race is still long, so we are no longer fighting for any result, but we are driving for the fun and for the pride of finishing a 12-hour race. We are all streaming our point of views, and at the moment I have my own stream with the VR headset attached to the seat to look at Stephen driving. But yeah, now what we want to do is to gain experience running for the first time with 4 drivers and be trouble-free till the end of the race.
That's absolutely fantastic. And just to update people, we are watching the splitter cam of Benny Benzel, looking forward to 3rd position. This is a battle for position, and these 2 cars are nose to tail at the time as they go through Degner here and on their way to the hairpin. We'll keep an eye on this real quick as he maybe has a run, thinks better of it, doesn't want to give away his hand here. Probably the smartest move there to back off and potentially have a better shot at it. But Seb, your Open Visor Racing Club, you guys have been around for a long time as far as I can recall. What is the allure of racing in RLM for you guys?
Well, I was registered at RLM for a while, but we are running a race room mainly at the OpenVisor Racing Club. We are starting a small series of race on the ACC, by the way, now. But when ACC was out and I saw the leagues at RLM, I wanted to try it, and I'm so hooked into ACC now that I'm really enjoying RLM organization and everything they do for us to have such wonderful races. So I did all my first endurance races at RLM, 6 hours of Nürburgring, 3 hours of Zolder, and now Suzuka. So it's a huge learning curve for me in endurance.
Well, Seb, it is a pleasure and an honor to have you racing with us and to have the Open Visor guys come in and put in such great work and be involved. And of course, what you just saw there was Vinny Benzel, who made the pass for third place and then immediately ducked down pit road, saying that this is the perfect time to get that scheduled stop out of the way.
Sure.
See you guys.
Take care, Seb. Thank you very much.
So the 888 car there, Simon. Yeah, currently in 5th. There we go. Oh, Josh, we don't have your audio.
You got me now?
Yeah, we got you now. So we got Josh Martin here, a very familiar name in the sim racing community, obviously driving for David Perrell's team. Currently, you guys running in 5th position. Josh, how are things going?
Yeah, the car is coming alive. We've got James in at the moment. He's setting the world alight at the moment, actually. You can see we're just behind car number 12. And the car's going well. It's been a pretty eventful first 4 hours, 5 hours or so, and hopefully we'll keep going.
Yeah, I mean, he's giving pressure to Lawrence right now, and obviously going through the Degners, the two of them will really put pressure on or Baldwin putting pressure onto Lawrence. With 4 hours, 42 minutes still to go, you guys having a great race so far. It would be great to see you guys get that 4th position back. Have there been any sort of things that have happened that you didn't expect so far?
Yeah, I think the weather's taken us a bit by surprise. Our strategy adjustment we need to adjust our strategy actually. But overall, the traffic's not been too bad. The pace has been very strong in the Mercedes. But the Aston's starting to come alive towards the night, so hopefully we can keep it going and chase the win.
Yeah, I think you guys are looking good for that. In terms of the Aston, can you kind of give us some insights as to why this was the car that was picked really for your team to take here to Suzuka?
Yeah, so David Perrell has recently launched setups on the Coach Dave Academy, and himself and James Parker have been working on the Aston setup actually. So it was kind of just to give a test to the setup quality, see how well we can take the car. And the Aston as a whole is a very stable car. I think, as you guys will have seen throughout the broadcast, it's not been too twitchy overall, and it's got quite a bit of pace to it as well. So it's a good all-rounder.
Yeah, it's one of those cars that I quite enjoy to drive. I find it something quite manageable. Otherwise, I main the Porsche, so it's kind of chalk and cheese if you compare the Porsche to the Aston Martin, really. So, Josh, a little bit about yourself. Obviously, it's great to have you in this race and racing for a team like the Coach Dave team that's here. Some big names there as well. You yourself are a Thrustmaster and Play Seat ambassador. What do you think of the event so far?
Yeah, I mean, you guys put on a great event. The Redline guys always put on amazing events, and it's awesome to have, not only in my team, but at the whole race, to have such big names involved. Obviously, I'm running Thrustmaster equipment and Playseat equipment, so I'm pretty happy. But it's amazing to see the quality of driver, the quality of stream, and you guys in the commentary box are doing amazing as well.
Thanks for that. We really appreciate it. And I think the whole field as a whole has kind of indicated just a really strong class of racing. You guys obviously running near the front of the order, you guys have had to encounter a lot of the back markers and things like that. Do you feel that drivers have done what they should have done in the right places for you guys, not to, get in the way of things and move out when they should have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to critique maybe some of the AM drivers and stuff like that, but I think on the whole, there's not been too many issues. And I think particularly for a race of this length, obviously people are going to get tired, the weather conditions are going to change, the cars are going to change. So I think overall, blue flags have been pretty well received. So yeah, credit to everybody on field at the moment. It's not been too bad.
Okay, so I might put you on the spot here for a second. So are you guys hoping really for the heavens to open up and you guys have one of these special wet weather setups that you've trained and tested out and hoping to catch people unawares with?
Yeah, I mean the Aston is a very well-rounded car, like we've been saying. So I think if the heavens were to open, it would play into our favor. If not, the setup has been pretty kind on the tires and the car's pretty quick, so we can kind of go either way at this moment.
Yeah, I think right now you guys are doing just what you have to do. I mean, staying within that top 5, currently obviously getting past Lawrence and holding that 4th position at the moment and closing down. There's always the potential to land up on the podium. I mean, 4 hours left to go. There's still a full long length of racing at the moment. When are you driving again, or are you let us know a little bit about your team sort of strategy driver wise.
Yeah, so I've just finished my second and final stint. So we've got James currently in the car at the moment, and we still got to see quite a bit more of Nick Foster and David himself. So, I mean, obviously P2's just picked up a drive-through, so that's going to play into our favour. And David and Nick, with our real-world experience and having such good success at this track, should all go in our favour, hopefully, to be fighting for a win at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just talking about Strelo's drive-through that he's picked up there, Raig, his brother, is not going to be happy with him at this point. That's going to cost him a lot of time doing that drive-through. So that works out for you guys just perfectly. Just one last thing. When David Perel comes into the car, do you think that in terms of his strengths, he's been putting a lot of time into Suzuka? He's going to bring some hot lap times for us?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been really cool to see. Obviously, we've got a team that's kind of 50-50 between sim racers and real racers. So it's been really cool to learn from David. We've kind of been able to help him out as well. And I think you're kind of seeing the whole field's lap times are starting to drop. But I think in particular, we should see David and Nick putting in some really quick times towards the end of the stint.
Yeah, so Nick Foster and David Perel, 2 drivers that I'm keen to see what they do. And like you said, this is what's so cool about sim racing, is that mixture now between real-life drivers and sim drivers. Of course, David coming from my home country here in South Africa, massive fanboy. So inadvertently, you guys get my fanism, and I can fanboy over you guys in the 888. So from my end, it's been fantastic to have you here, Josh. Thanks so much for coming and chatting to us. And if any of you guys want to come and chat to us a little bit later, feel free to pop in any time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you, Josh. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely fantastic to hear from Josh Martin, the Thrustmaster and Playseat Ambassador, racing on the Coach Dave Academy team, the 888 team pictured on your screen right now. Lovely to hear that lovely conducted interview by George there as well. And did you hear how poised and composed Josh was? It's almost like he gets interviewed for a living, you know? It's fantastic stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to have professionals coming through. It's kind of hard to contain the nerves sometimes as well. You get to speak to some of the big names involved in esports, and there's really nothing that happens without seeing Josh's name involved somehow. And he's really poised and positioned himself in such a great place and such a good ambassador for all the brands involved in sim racing. I mean, you'll hear him on podcasts, hear him involved in all kinds of things, and here he is racing with a 50-50 racing team. So just phenomenal to have those kind of class of people coming through and racing and willing to come and chat to us. I just love that.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, we get to sit here, we get to watch a good race, we get to talk to influencers, celebrities, real racing drivers, and good friends. It's not the worst job in the world, really, if you think about it. And With 4 hours and 35 minutes left in the race, it is now gone properly dark. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you will see the track lights around the track illuminated. The headlights have been ablaze for some time. It's just gone 7:34 p.m. sim time as the clouds have sort of dissipated. You can actually see the stars out. Look how beautiful that is here in ACC tonight. It's a wonderful night to be at the racetrack, and it's a wonderful night to be live on Twitch here with you for the Coach Dave Academy 12 hours Suzuka. 4 hours, 34 and a half minutes left, and it has lived up to the hype. It was a long road here, but man, this race has been fantastic. And
hasn't it, just
the storyline? Yeah, the storylines for me is that how close a lot of the top 5 are. I mean, that whole time we were talking to some of those great drivers and people. How many battles did we see in the top 5? There's 2 or 3 of them I counted.
There sure was, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I mean, unfortunately, obviously, this start again. It is this time of the race where obviously, you know, everyone is pretty much mixed up in the grid, and it's literally just picking out and trying to find when there is an actual battle for position rather than just people with back marks and stuff. Because again, it is obviously about the pit strategies here, you know, and as I was saying earlier on, I bet a lot of people were hoping to get some sort of rain, so they said they got that extra set of tyres for that, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it's going to be changing much. Looking at the clouds now, it was, or the weather should I say, earlier on at the start of the race we was at about 20, I think it was about 26 degrees and 30 degrees track temps, and it was clear. It's now dropped down to 19 degrees ambient, 19 degrees track temps, and it's now light cloud. So as you were saying there, the clouds have started to come away again, and as we can obviously see the night sky there with the stars in the distance. So yeah, it's interesting to see what's happened here. So looks like those who have been sort of hoping for a wet race are now probably kicking themselves because they probably pushed so hard earlier on, and now obviously they're going to be struggling with tyres at the later part of the race. So what's your thoughts on that, Jesse?
Well, of course, we gave them 9 sets of dry tires. I believe that's correct. And
that's right, yeah.
Of course, the wets were extra. You didn't get penalized for using wets, but we haven't been given the opportunity. So if you have abused your 9 sets of tires here, and no doubt some teams have, matter of fact, it was a point of conversation with many of the interviews was conservation and double stinting and all of those things. And if you have abused your tires, you're looking at the sky now and you're thinking it's well, the sky's falling a little bit perhaps, because now you have to ration your tires and everything else in your stints, and maybe you have to change your strategy entirely because it did look like it could possibly rain for so long and it just hasn't. We're not saying that it won't. There is still 4+ hours left, but it's a little hard to talk about rain now whenever you can see stars in the sky like that picture right there. My goodness, this sim is gorgeous sometimes. Look at that. Just the shot down the west straight and into 130R is just a fantastic shot, and I love this camera work that we have. Should mention Simon's doing our camera work as well as commentating. He's doing an absolute excellent job as he always does, and he's providing us these wonderful shots. And this is Rafael Donardo, who has come in for, I would only assume, a routine pit stop, whipped it in there and got it down onto the limiter, and that will give up some of his track position for the time being. But we're at the point in the race, like you said, Simon, that everybody's spread out and everybody has their own agenda. That's the thing about this point in the race. Everybody's doing something different. Everybody has their own agenda. You don't see big groups of cars pitting. It's individual cars. You're on your own strategy. You have what you have at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it sort of makes it interesting, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's very true. Like I said, I'm just literally scrolling down to see if there's any type of battles going on at the moment. Just obviously say we've got the relatives on the screen there, so we know that at the moment I can see there's nothing really going on. P25, 26, about 1 second apart at the moment. We can see there on the relatives, so there might happen something. Sorry, it's my Mrs. fault. She's just come in with a Ferrero Rocher chocolate Easter egg. I've just been munching that.
Has she distracted you with chocolate?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Well, it's not just chocolate, you see. It's the Ferrero Rocher one. So it's yeah, it's very Moorish. So I do apologise.
Shall we start referring to her as the saboteur? Because that's exactly what she's done to this commentary.
Absolutely. But yeah, sorry, I'll go back to see what we got down the grid. See if there's
Chad agrees with you, though, Simon. Chad agrees with you. It says that chocolate is a valid excuse, and I agree with you, Chad. Chocolate is a valid excuse, and you know, when the missus is giving you chocolate, why wouldn't you indulge yourself? As we attempt to find some sort of battle on the track, and sort of the ebb and the flow of motor racing, sometimes, isn't it? It doesn't always happen when you want it to, and excellent back marker skills there by the 41st place, number 38 Nissan. Got flashed by the 128 Lexus there and immediately went to the outside, letting it through. That's exactly what we like to see. That's proper driving by a back marking or a lap down car. And yeah, I just love to see that, don't you? Look at that. There's just a line of cars. Gets out of the way, continues this race. No harm, no foul. It looks really simple, and it might be, but it's difficult for some people. But just a shot of the high driving standards that we have here at RLM, especially in a race such as this. George, is there anything that you have your mind on right now? Anything that sticks out to you in this race right now? Or yes.
So we obviously heard from the Russian Bears racing team, and they were the all-Russian team, and we've managed to find the driver that they were talking about that is the other Russian guy that's not in their team. He drives for Blue Flag Racing, Ivalo Grigorov, and he's in the car number 4, position 18 at the moment. He's chasing down Jose in front of him, who is currently 1.3 seconds up the road. Of course, he's got Whitford behind him. Is a car he's just lapped down, as now going down the start finish straight. Always going to be a fan of a Porsche. Of course, if I get to talk about one of those, I'll get to abuse and use my power. So we don't see too many Porsches being used here at Suzuka, and I do feel that rear engine nature of them makes them quite beastly to handle, especially in a race that takes place over 12 hours. I mean, you're looking for stability, you're looking for something that you can drive consistently without having incidents, and I do feel that the Porsche drivers have kind of they're kind of flexing their skill level by coming and piloting these kind of things around for this kind of level. And you do see a lot of the guys that do drive Porsches in other leagues dropping those out and picking up cars like Aston Martins and things because of the stability side of things. I mean, jumping over to our race leader again in the Racing Line Motorsport Mercedes, the 191. It's going to be Kevin Zaklari taking over once again. And of course, Kevin Zaklari getting all the work done earlier on to secure the first position, having the handover done now, taking back control of this wheel. I mean, these guys really do seem to be in control of the race at the moment, as they continue to just pound after pound away. As Kevin Zaklari, he's actually done a sub 2-minute lap. He's done a 1:59.964. So Kevin Zaklari really just pounding around. His last lap time there, 2:09.06. Very interesting considering the last lap time of Ray Strello behind him, having a 2:01.068. So almost a second faster than the guy driving around in second place on that last lap. Yeah. And of course, just 0.3 faster as the best lap overall.
I was just about to say that, George, but you just took the words out of my mouth. So yeah, he is the first guy to actually get into the 1:59s there. So yeah, like I said, 3/10 quicker than second place Ray Strado at the moment. So yeah, awesome to see that. Obviously getting this sort of pace in a race, 1:59.9. Obviously, looks like the colder conditions are definitely benefiting them at the moment with their lap times in the Mercedes.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you guys that very question, because it is becoming darker and cooler and later in the evening here. Should we have expected the lap times or the pace to go up? Do you think that that's a direct relation, or maybe they're just more comfortable on the track? What do you think's going on here, guys?
Sorry, I was eating chocolate. So, to answer your question there, Jesse, I think they're probably timing it just right with the back markers, getting the toe they need on some of the straights, and that's obviously helping getting their lap times down. But I do obviously think also with obviously the temperatures dropping, you know, some cars do prefer to run with colder conditions and others prefer to run with hotter conditions. So yeah, I mean that's the variation that we got in ACC, which is you know, really good to see.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think a little bit of it is perhaps comfortable. Maybe the track's a little better running at this particular hour of the evening. Maybe it is because it's a little cooler, and some cars do enjoy that a bit. But Greg Strello in second place. I'm not sure if they were served a drive-through penalty or if it was cleared, but either way, they are still in second place at this point. Could possibly ask for clarification at some point. Third place, of course, the number 12 Mercedes. Lawrence behind the wheel of that PCDC Motorsports car, and they are in pursuit, of course. And I think there are only 2 cars on the lead lap right now. I think Saklari has put the number 12 PCDC Motorsports Mercedes down a lap to this point. So I think there's only 2 cars on the same lap right now. That's incredible pace, considering that the Racing Line boys didn't even take the lead until the second hour or so. So that's incredible. We still got 4 hours of the race to go here. He might, Saklari and that team, the Racing Line team, they are on the pace that could potentially mean that they're the only car on the lead lap, perhaps.
Can we even just talk about the fact that Reg Strello had to do a drive-through penalty rise, which he did. He served, and he came out. He went in second place. He came out in second place. So, I mean, these top 2 guys, these top 2 cars, you know, top 2 teams, should I say, because, you know, been piloted around by a bunch of drivers, not just one in particular, but really just giving themselves such incredible pace. Just got to tip the hat to being able to do something like what Reg Strello did there, pick up a drive-through penalty, go and serve it, and come out in second place again.
Yeah, there's also other thing, George, I'd like to talk about is the fact that we started with 50-some cars in this race. Until this point, we still have about 43, 45 of them circulating around the track, and that's incredible stuff, really. I mean, to be racing for this long and to only lose a handful of cars in the melee is, I mean, that's fantastic pace and attrition.
Yeah, it's something that you want to see. You want to see drivers staying in as long as they can. Of course, you can't control every single world effect, and you cannot control every act of internet that every country may experience. So some drivers getting disconnected, and that's unfortunate. It's part of the process of online racing. But majority of the drivers sticking out, staying through here, and giving us a really nice field of drivers to spectate on. Currently looking at Kieran Hudson for the Hooligan Club Racing, with car number 41 currently running in 11th place. So wants to try and find Ivanov in front, who is driving that Mercedes that we see. Of course, got Porter behind, who is a lapped car. But Kieran Hudson trying to get himself within the top 10, get his team up there as well. I'm sure everybody in the comms box is going to agree with me and say that as the game gets darker, it gets more and more realistic looking. And I have to keep shaking my head and just reminding myself that, hey, we're actually watching something from a computer game here, you know, a computer simulator. Some people get upset with me calling it a game, and I'm sorry. But, you know, it still comes down to the fact that we get to watch something that is done in the virtual world and just looks so incredible. So again, get to shout out the Kunos devs for creating something so beautiful. And just a little shout out to Simon and Jesse for, you know, being my co-commentators and having me here. It's a great place and I'm loving it.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. And I'm being told that there is a potential battle for the 3rd or 4th spot at the moment. Don't necessarily see what they're on about, but that could just be the timing and scoring being silly as they go through the sectors, which is a common thing in real racing as well, where if a car has triggered a particular sector and the other car hasn't, so you don't really have any information to go off of. But no, doesn't look like there is any battle at the moment, I'm afraid.
I mean,
for
Baldwin,
those positions.
I think Baldwin, pace-wise, is making some, good positions on track and may wheel them in. I think that's maybe something that we should look out for. But for now, you're right. Lawrence not quite under the attack of Baldwin. But if that pace continues from Baldwin, I mean, his last lap wasn't the indicator there, and his best lap, I don't think, is quite updated. I mean, Lawrence seems to be pulling out the distance. I'm not quite sure why we were getting an indicator on our timing sheets as to why they were closing it
do you know
down
what?
either.
Do you know what? It's for 4th place. It is James Baldwin and Ciriello. It is the battle for 4th place. They are nose to tail right now.
Oh, you're 100% right. That's where the split time is.
Yeah, our apologies, ladies and gentlemen. It's just our splits were reflecting something different there. But yeah, I had to find it in the scoring tower. But you're absolutely right, and here it is.
Yeah, so Baldwin obviously in that Aston Martin, Cirillo in the Ferrari. We're on board with the splitter cam at nighttime of Cirillo's Ferrari as he comes through 130 out, chasing down the back of the Aston Martin up in front, that blue liveried Aston Martin for Coach Dave. Academy. He's got James Baldwin piloting at the moment. A team of a 50-50 split we heard there of real-life drivers and esports drivers. And Cirillo going to have the run down the straight in terms of trying to tuck in behind the slipstream. But you can just see how great that Aston Martin seems to be. Really isn't tuned to lose out on the straights there. It kind of leaves the Ferrari behind. And now Cirillo going to have to do big work to hold on through the S's. Of course, the tunes and all the work being put in by the drivers to find the most. And Cirillo really does seem to find something. He runs and uses all the curb, picks up a little bit of grass as well towards the exit of the S's now. They're going to make their way around to the Dunlop curve. We see the not yet RGB Ferris or big round wheel in the background, just to mention that as we go through the Dunlop curve. Baldwin pulling away a little bit from Cirillo as they're going to go through Degner now, and you can just see the stability as they take the ideal similar lines through the exact same parts of the track, kicking up a little bit of dust as well. Always nice to see the headlights pick that up. You get to see so much immersion from these onboard views as well. Through the hairpin, they continue. James Baldwin will look back at Cirillo. Jesse, do you think that Cirillo now is going to get the move done again down the end of Spoon? It doesn't look like he has the run that he had earlier, but anything can change in that late braking Ferrari, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, George. The thing is that I think the Aston Martin here can gap the Ferrari a little bit, but it doesn't really matter because the Ferrari, as we know, is really good under braking, super stable and super. And I love this camera angle. Look at this. This is in the grill opening, right where the Ferrari logo is on the 488 GT3, folks. You are riding along with the prancing horse, and look at the reflections as it's dark now, and you can see the top of where the bodywork begins, and the bottom, of course, is the splitter. See the reflections, and right in front of him is 4th place, that pro team that has the Coach Dave branding on it this weekend with the 50-50 split of sim racers and real racers. And I was just thinking to myself quietly, who do you take advice from in that scenario? You're in a sim racing game, but it is racing, and if you have a 50-50 split of real drivers and sim drivers, who takes control of who's making the setup there? I'm glad I don't have to make that decision, but once again, we have Cirillo here chasing Baldwin up through the S's and through the Dunlop curve and into Degner. And it'll be interesting to see if we can get another chance here. He will have a chance. It certainly looks like it as he closes right up on the back of Baldwin's car and falls off a little bit because that Aston Martin pulls him on the straights. But here we go again, hard under braking into the hairpin, pulls right up behind him again, and watch the Aston Martin drive away ever so slightly as we go through 200R on our way to the Spoon curve up here. We will see if he gets a big run into the corner will go a little bit wider than Baldwin. And here we are. We are on the West Straight now. And I think eventually, George, I think he gets it done.
I don't want to call it just yet, because I mean Baldwin just seems to be putting his Aston Martin in the right place. As we've switched over to the camera here, Baldwin seems to have picked up a new gust of wind into his sails, as we see a car on the wayward side of the 130R. He's taken a bit much. A lot of dust getting kicked up here as well, as we still continue to ride on board. We see them, or we see the Ferrari closing the gap down. That Aston Martin tune, though, whatever is there, hopefully I can buy it for one of my cars on Coach Dave's website, because it seems to be just running away from the Ferrari, and it's not something that I would normally think. Ooh, we see it getting closed down again. Cirello quite late on the brakes there. I think a little bit of a panic moment coming through, as the back end of that Aston Martin grew very, very large indeed for us as spectators. But Cirello doing the right work, of course, indicating why he has that pro badge next to his name, continuing to just push and push and push. And I feel like, you know, if you just keep making Baldwin work for things, you're going to definitely improve your chances of getting on by when you need to get the work done. Atswanger in front there, he's going to be a back marker. He wants to get out the way. Coming up to Degner, this might work out for Cirello, because it's not a place that a back marker can get out the way. He will now before the hairpin. Where is Cirello going to come back in here before the hairpin? He's not going to get past the back marker. The back marker wanted to stay out wide. Great work from him to do that. Atswanger in that Mercedes. Great work not to interfere with the battle. I think that Baldwin has benefited just a slight bit, but Cirello really can't blame the way that Atswanger handled that whatsoever. Really nice bit of driving to get out of the way. And yeah, that battle now given a put on ice for a little bit and left to mature.
Well, you know what they say, if you caught him once, you can catch him again. And I absolutely think that Cirello has just a little bit more ultimate pace at this time, and I think he will catch him. But in the meantime, you know what we haven't heard is that a penalty in a while, and I think one has just occurred. Jake Boswell.
Yes, hey guys, it's been a quick update. We have had one drive-through for car number 25. Small contact rear-ending car number 253. Unfortunate, but that's a drive-through for him. We've also seen a couple of small penalties in the shape of a warning for 514 and a couple of small time penalties, one going to car number 69 and the other one to 969. And that's it for now, chaps.
Jake, could you do me a favor real quick?
Yes.
Could you tell me what the drive-through penalty for the Strello team was for?
I believe that was possibly pit related. It wasn't from us.
Understood. Jake Boswell here with us all day in the booth and in the steward's box, letting you guys and us know exactly what's going on. Jake, thank you very much for your dedication to your work and your explanations.
No problem. Catch you later.
All right, this battle, as we expected, George, it has reheated up. Cirello has caught Baldwin again, and really deep under braking. He's going to go really wide, and that's going to take him off into the grass, into the hairpin. He's going to miss the corner a little bit, and that's going to mess up his center. As we see a replay, oh, he tries to go around the outside, a little touch, a little wiggle, and he goes offline, and that throws him way out of the battle. But wait, has it not messed him up that bad? How is it possible that you go that far out of the way and you're still on the back bumper of the guy that you're fighting?
No, Jesse, no. That is now Konica.
Oh wait, you're right. That is correct. That is a different Aston Martin.
Yeah. So he's found a different Aston Martin. He did a little tap run and suddenly probably came out thinking, how did this car change colors? But yeah, he's realized what's happened now. And he's obviously given a little flash of light saying, listen, I want to take my position back. I should not be behind you. I should be chasing down on Baldwin in front of you. James Baldwin, of course, going to be smiling a little bit to himself. Probably not going to be happy with a little love tap that was given. But at the same time, race not over. And with 4 hours and 10 minutes to go, that's the main thing. Kionka is not feeling amused by the semantics that Cirello's kind of thrown towards him. And he's not just jumped out the way. He said, you know what? You're going to have to tuck up a little bit tighter before I give myself away to you. He has not let him by on the straight. He's gone into the S's. And I feel like, Cirello's not quite on the back of where he can be to take that position back. So right now, maybe blue flags being waved towards Kayonka at the moment in that bright purple Aston Martin. But for now, Cirello not in a position to actually take that position back. So James Baldwin given a lot of breathing space.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic if you're James Baldwin. That was pretty bad if you're Cirello. That's not what you wanted to see. And it's just like he got it a bit wrong, like he misjudged a little bit. And now, I mean, he's got even more work to do. He's got to get around 2 Aston Martins. I mean, he was struggling to get around 1. But I reckon he will close back up before the end of that stint. Anyway, again, you know what I say, George? If you caught him 2 times, you can catch him a 3rd time, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and if you do it 3 times, you can do it a 4th time, I'm sure. So if it continues this way, I feel like Parker's going to have his hands full of defense if Cirello gets things done the right way, and currently not going to continue to do so. Let's go over to Dan Suzuki, see how he's doing. He's found himself settled quite nicely down there into 12th place, so just outside the top 10, currently wrapping around in his Honda NSX for Redline Motorsports. Of course, the car number 999, and not too much action in front or behind for him at the moment. He's, of course, got the big job of just making sure the car stays on the track. You're going to have to finish the race to pick up points, and of course, you're waiting for someone else to make a mistake. Going over to the other THR RLM Esports car, Samir Ebriami with the Ferrari number 48, currently running in 7th. Another car just kind of in clean open air. Does have Hudson in front by 5.5 seconds, but that's a car that he'll be lapping, who's currently holding down 11th. He's got Lawrence, who is coming to lap or overtake him, who's 3.5 seconds behind him. But currently his position secure and stable for the moment.
Yeah, this is just, it's part of the racing, isn't it? Where, these cars get strung out and then you have these little battles that pop up and then they go away. And we're just showing you several of the cars throughout the field. Of course, looking at Kevin Stuck right now for the, I believe this is the Kuno's dev team, isn't it? If I'm not very much mistaken. They are driving the big bad BMW. And if you don't like a big BMW, I mean, come on. It's just a lovely car. Listen to the sound of that thing as it roars by. It'll, on a quiet night, it'll rattle the windows in your small town, that's for sure. As we go on to the front splitter, Kevin Stuck getting it all the way to the outside apex and kisses the inside apex. This isn't his first rodeo around here. He's hitting all of the points that you would like to hit on a lap around here. That team we talked to Gergo earlier, they are up to 18th at the moment. And just going back to Dan Suzuki for a minute and that Redline Motorsports esports team, for me, it's hard to place how they've had what their day is like, because 1 second they're down in 19th, the next second they're in the top 10, and now they're 12th, and then they were 20th at one point, and now they're back 12th again. And it's like they have been all over the place. They have been a busy team. They have passed a lot of cars to get to this point, and they keep trucking along. I saw somebody in chat mention that it seems like every time we go back to this 999 Honda, Dan's in the car, and I think that's just the way that it has turned out. He does, in fact, have 2 other teammates who I think have both been in the car by now, I would almost assume. But Dan Suzuki plugging away, all things considered. And here we are again, looking at this battle that is going to reignite at some point. Down under 2 seconds, this gap. This battle was spoiled earlier whenever Cirello went off the track in the hairpin. And now he has all the work to do again. It appears as if he has, or no, has he not gotten past the lap car? Is that lap car still in the middle?
No, he has done it. Cirello has got past the lap car. Kayonka has now given up that position. He has a car called, he has Stuck. Kevin Stuck is actually stuck between them. So that
see
will
what you
be
did there.
I'm glad that my dart joke did not go unmissed there. That was I've been working on that one for a while, been waiting for someone to get stuck between two cars. But yeah, Baldwin will now be under attack from Sorello shortly once again, as soon as they have cleared Kevin stuck. So Sorello now coming down the west straight, of course. Baldwin quite a couple of car lengths up ahead of him, but the chase has continued. 1 seconds up the road according to the relative split timings. That can change up in 2 or 3 corners, especially coming down to the first curve. So Sorello going to be trying to go late on the brakes. We talked about the Ferrari's ability to get late on the brakes, and of course going to be trying to abuse it and close down as much space as possible.
Yeah, it is a bit of a predicament, because now you've made a mistake and now you have to make up those spots, and you got to contend with lap traffic. Before, it was clean running. They were nose to tail. There wasn't a space to put a lap car in between them, and now you have this scenario where you're about 2 seconds behind and you have a car in front, and you're trying to worry about what they're doing and how to get back up there. And it's all about patience, isn't it? At some point you just got to be patient and know that let your car do the talking, let your driving do the talking. Particularly the Ferrari is really good on the brakes, and you got to use that to your advantage, but you can't go too crazy. Got to keep it on the road, and that is the name of the game in an endurance race such as this. This is Andre Mole for the I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look up what team they are, because they use a default livery, of course, because of the Lexus, but running 32nd, and they are in the AM class. It's these cars here, this is the kind of race, though, honestly, I would be annoyed about. We talked earlier about how there's still 45 plus cars in this race. We started with 50 some, and there's still 45 in the race at this point. We're well over the halfway point at this time. I'd be annoyed because I'm the kind of driver that's slow, and I'd be at the back, and the only way that I gain positions is when people leave. So I'd be really annoyed if there were still 45 cars, because I'd have been 45th. What do you think, George?
Yeah, because everybody would still be here. So Andre Mole, he drives for Paradigm Shift. I heard you give me the cue to go and make use of your beautiful spec sheet. That gives us some info on the drivers. Of course, they've provided us with some beautiful information about themselves, which helps us talk about them as well. So Andre Mole, predominantly a race room driver, 8th in the RLM Race Room Porsche Cup, 4th in the RLM Race Room Green Hull Endurance event. So obviously loves RLM. I can see he's a Porsche fan because he's done, a Porsche Cup. So to me, he's got my backing, even if he's not quite driving a Porsche at the moment. We're going to cross back to Sorello as he tries to do some more work on, as he hasn't caught up to Baldwin yet. I thought, maybe he'd close down the gap even more. But yeah, he's done the work in getting himself past any of the back markers, and the only car now in front of him will be that Coach Dave Aston Martin, the number 888. The Jaws music has begun to play. Sorello wants to hunt down and play.
Yeah, I wonder how many more rhymes you have, George. You've been rhyming. I don't know if you've noticed that. So maybe you're doing that on purpose. That's fantastic stuff. If you're doing that absent-mindedly, that's lovely.
JC, I think it comes into sometimes knowing that this has been a long time of commentary, and sometimes it just happens. I've just enjoyed the time with you guys, and we've got 4 hours left of this race, which, to be honest, how many 1 hour enduros can you fit into 4 hours, JC? Do you want to do the maths?
How many 1 hour enduros can you fit for us? Let me see. I'm going to get my hand out here. I think about 4, honestly, George, I think is the answer you're looking for there. And that's basically what this turns into. And, when you're having fun, folks, time flies. And I look at the fact that there's 4 hours to go, and I'm almost a bit sad. I don't want this race to end. This has been fantastic stuff. I mean, we're still fighting for top 5 spots, and we still got 4 hours to go. Just past 8 p.m. sim time here at the Suzuka circuit, and it is completely dark. Look at that beautiful sky. Not a cloud in it at the moment. Full stars out. The lights around the track are out. The lights around the cars are on, and the tailpipes are glowing. 4 hours left in this race. This is the Coach Dave Academy 12-hour of Suzuka, and here is your running order. This is the entire running order of the race for you as you take a look, find your favorite driver, favorite team. as the standings continue to scroll. And it's just been fantastic. It's passed in a blur. Simon?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it only scrolls down to 30, unfortunately, on this at the moment. So I might have a quick chat with the devs after this to see if the reason for that. We have got more than 30 cars on the grid, but unfortunately, this is a feature I did ask for, and they obviously delivered. But unfortunately, we're going to go down to the top 30 on this, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully we get that rectified for the next race we do.
Yep, it's there are about 44-ish cars. Some of them are circulating, but they are several laps down, so they haven't matriculated to a higher standing currently. But they have that opportunity. It's been crazy. Any takeaways, George, from you from this segment that we've done so far?
Oof. I feel like coming into the night conditions, we haven't really seen maybe a big of a shift as we may have thought the nighttime stints would have done for drivers. I don't think anyone has really stood out to me as being someone that has particularly excelled or struggled in the nighttime session. I think that just goes to show that a lot of the time and effort has been put in, not just practicing in the day stints, but knowing that coming into a 12-hour, you're going to go through a day-night cycle. Yeah, so I think coming down to the driver standards, I think it's just great to see that everybody that is currently out and lapping around has seemed to do some of the nighttime, practice sessions. Overall, of course, Kevin Saklari looking quite dominant, of course. We'll just have to mention the fact that he did break that 2-minute mark to that 1:59.964. And of course, Reg Strello, got to mention the Strellos, because they've moved themselves up. They're in second position at the moment. The Coach Dave team, they've managed to get their fourth position back. They'd lost that out. They'd been battling behind. But, have things changed up? Has Sorello got that move done? I think Sorello's got past
Baldwin has pitted,
he's gone into the pits.
I think is what's happened there. Commentator's curse there, George. Continue.
Yeah, they're not a curse. Jesse, curses are when you made Wolf Matushka's team crash. That was commentator's curse.
I don't remember that happening, George.
There is a reason they're not winning the Enduro at the moment. That was because of you, Jesse. That was the real commentator's curse.
I'll be honest, that happened so long ago, I don't remember that.
But you can't, just because you forgot it doesn't mean it's just invalidated, mate.
I can guarantee Wolf Matushka has not forgotten that and will never allow me to forget that happened.
No, I don't think you're ever forgiven. I haven't forgiven you, and I didn't even drive in the car.
Well then, I don't know what else I could say to that other than apologize to Wolf and everybody else in the box, because apparently if I say your name on the stream, well, it's curtains for you, I'm afraid. So I will not talk about Samir Ibrahimi, who's part of the RLM THR Esports team here this weekend. It's been sort of quiet for Ibrahimi and his number 48 Ferrari team. He's just been plucking along. I think you could say that about a lot of the top 10 teams, can't you? Really, that they've been so consistent that they haven't put a foot wrong, really, to give us anything to talk about other than the fact that they're having an incredibly solid performance and performing exactly like pro teams should, as they get dicey right behind them, but no harm, no foul. They all keep it going and didn't even think that none of those touched. It just they were getting into that chicane there really, really tightly packed. But Samir Ibrahimi, of course, as you can now see, the best lap in his last lap there, down into a 2:02 his last lap through. And still, I mean, there's a lot of time left. A lot of these cars, I think from third on back to about, was it 7? I think those cars are all on the same lap currently. So my takeaway, by the way, from this particular stint was just how unfazed all these drivers were by the dark. They didn't care. It's like nothing really changed. I mean, all the times for some of them went lower, perhaps due to the atmospheric conditions. But other than that, I mean, nothing really changed. They're still out here running hard, making passes and stuff. So, I mean, I guess if you are a pro driver, you wouldn't be fazed by that, now would you?
No, exactly. So I just want to quickly talk about tyres again, as that's a very important factor now, as we're sort of... we are 2/3 into the race. We're starting the third now, aren't we, of the race? So those 8 hours have really flown by, don't you think?
Yeah, it's absolutely been so smooth and interesting. I mean, you know, time flies when you have fun.
Absolutely. So yeah, going on about tyres. So if you guys have only just joined us in the stream at this later on, so yeah, there has been a further 8 hours 5 minutes of racing, which you can obviously go back and look at the videos, because we have done it in sort of segments of 3 hours of each video. So we're on the third one here at the moment. So yeah, the guys here only have 9 sets of tyres for the 12-hour race, so they have to do some double stints on these tyres, especially 2 sets at least, to obviously complete the 12-hour race. That said, if it did rain, they'd also get a free set of wet tyres, so then obviously their dry tyres wouldn't be such a bad thing. But as it looks like, it doesn't look like we're going to get much rain at the moment. Had no rain for the first 8 hours. The clouds did start to get a bit more darker earlier on in the race, but we're now back to lighter clouds, so 18 degrees Celsius and 18 degrees track temperatures. So yeah, it is starting to obviously decrease as it's obviously getting further into the night. It's only 8:15 and we are live with times progression as well. So the race is going to finish roughly about 10 minutes past midnight in the game, and it's going to be about sort of 20 past midnight BST real time. So yeah, we did try to keep it to the real life time in game, and obviously real life to us. But yeah, so obviously some of these guys were expecting to obviously run with these tyres, in obviously hoping that obviously you're going to get the wet tyres, so that they could obviously push harder in the beginning. So those that did obviously push harder in the beginning to gain positions are definitely going to be struggling later on, because obviously tyre degradation, I can't even speak the word. Help me out there, Jesse. Degradation. Degradation. I can't say it. I can't.
Degradation,
there we go.
Simon.
I can't even
that chocolate
it
has messed with your head.
It has, yes. So there we go. Yeah, so the tyre degradation, especially when the track gets colder as well, the tyres are going to worn out more as well. So like I said, the guys that didn't push as hard earlier on, they're really going to benefit now with the nighttime racing. And as I said, the top 20 positions or so we're really going to get mixed up come the end of the race. So I think we're going to be in for a very exciting last an hour of the race, I'd say. If not the last half an hour, is going to be very exciting for sure. So yeah, what's your take on that, Jesse, with that at the moment?
Well, I mean, it's just going to get crazy from here on out. If we have this many cars in the top 10 that still have something to fight for, especially even a lot of these guys have a top 5, and a lot of these guys talked about how they would fight for every last spot when I spoke to them. I wouldn't expect anything less from any of these guys, and I mean, that's what you're going to get here at the end of the race. So don't go anywhere, and you know, it's the weekend, so stay up and watch it with us. Come on, you know you got to see how this ends. You didn't watch all of this way just to go to bed now, did you? So stay with us and enjoy the rest of this race. But got Jake on the line with some more penalties. Jake.
There we go.
Yes, we got one drive through for car number 4 for unfortunately taking out driver 71, but we have got an interesting one. One of the drivers of Team 25 joined us in the race control box and complained that they had got an additional stop and go penalty after serving a drive-through penalty. We've had a quick look into this, and it turns out that while taking their drive-through, they actually pulled into the pit box. So not sure whether they decided to try and driver swap or change tyres just with the hours everyone's been driving, made a mistake, but the game did true to its system and slapped a stop and go penalty on top of that for breaking the drive-through rules.
Oh dear. Of course, whenever you have a drive-through penalty, Jake, you can't stop, I assume, correct?
That is true.
That is unfortunate. That is not what you want. So that was just a couple of penalties. Is that all?
That is it for now.
It's very quiet.
Thank you very much, Jake Boswell, of course, joining us in the stewards booth and the commentary box to tell you and us the penalties and let us know exactly what happened. That's unfortunate to you. Speaking about the Phil Vitt-driven car, I believe, that got that additional penalty because not correctly serving the drive-through. And my goodness, did you guys see that at home? I'm sorry, 1 second, George. Look at the tailpipes on that Ferrari as it goes down the street. Look at those glowing red things. I'm sorry, I got lost in them for a second. Please, George.
No, you're just trying to distract the fact that you don't want to talk about who Vitt's teammates are. You know, that also.
I was really hoping you had forgotten about that.
No, that's Wolf Matushka's team, the BWT guys. So Jesse, you're not doing so well with your commentator's curse, and that poor pink Audi is not getting its just expressionism out on the Suzuka circuit now. And that's on you, Jesse B from America.
All right. Well, I'm getting lambasted here in the box today. This is a ferocious. Not even Chris Hay beat me up this much. Goodness. But I mean,
we fight quite strong here from South Africa. So just had to let you know that your beautiful pink Matushka Audi, which I can't really call the Matushka Audi anymore because he's got some teammates in it this time around. But yeah, unfortunate scene of events for them. Of course, we're rooting for them to do quite well, and of course, just that's the beauty of endurance racing. Anything can happen. We're going to look at Reg Strello, a driver that has had some great fortune so far in this event, and of course his brother doing some great work in the car. The two of them together holding down second place as we hit that 3 hour 50-minute remaining mark. Trying to chase down on Kevin Saklari up ahead is going to be some big work for Reg Strello and his brother to try and do, but you know what? I wouldn't discount them just yet. Anything can happen. We've seen it happen to drivers before. I mean, if you get served with some kind of weird penalty or you exceed your track limits too much and you're going to have to serve something, that can really change up the order. We did see Strello serving a drive-through penalty earlier from second place, coming out in second place, and that just kind of, draws testament to the fact that he's had such a phenomenal drive here today with, the twin brother team.
Yeah, 100%, George. I mean, to echo your point, I mean, that's a strong second place if you can take a penalty like that. And whenever we had Fabian, Nick, and Ryan in the booth earlier, you guys saw live, and I saw as well, that the 191 leading car was involved in an incident exiting the second curve before you get to the S's. So, and it wasn't anything major. They kept on and everything. And but had that been a bit more serious, that could completely change the complexion of the race. Just one little moment like that, a misjudgment by them or another car, and it completely changes your race. All your work that you have put in is gone, or as Fabian Schmidberger would say, it goes kaput.
I love that you brought Fabian back in here because they're going to be joining us back again, obviously for commentary team 2. They will be joining us again very shortly. So Fabian will be able to join us with a few more of his little quirks. Hopefully one day Jesse will have something that he quotes me on, not where I shouted him. But currently on board with Sorello, he's chasing down, of course, a Ferrari in front who is not full position. Is this full position in front? This Ferrari, no, it's not. This is a backmarked Ferrari that is being chased down by Sorello. Of course, going to go very wide and give him the move back on the outside line there. So Hudson moving out quite nicely there for Sorello. We're going to look back towards him from that rear-facing camera as he heads on up towards Spoon and continues chasing down Lawrence, who he wants to find, he wants to hunt down, he wants to rival for that podium position. And with 3 hours 46 left to go, really got a lot to still work around and work towards. It's only just gone 8:30 here, and it already looks as dark as it's midnight. So I'm not quite sure how much darker it gets, and I'm not sure at what stage it's going to set in for these drivers, where the darkness may be playing effect. I mean, all the lighting and things that happens in ACC just needs to be touched on again. It's just so beautiful to see. And for me, just really the lighting adds to that immersion. It's really fun to drive this game at night. You see all the shadows getting cast all across the dashboard as well from this onboard camera that Simon's currently showing us, and just highlighting Simon's beautiful camera work again. Not often that we get to be treated to such beautiful camera work, and yeah, shout out to you, Simon. I appreciate your camera work.
Thank you very much, guys. But like you were saying, yes, we will be swapping over to Comms Team 2 in the next 16 minutes in game time. So yeah, so we'll be stopping around at sort of the 3:30 mark, and then Comms Team 2, Ryan, Fabian and Nick will be taking over at basically just after that, about 10 seconds after that. So yeah, guys, when that does happen, don't obviously leave the stream, because it will literally be about a 10-second changeover, and then it just be live again with the second Comms team. And then they're going to take us up to the last hour And then for the final hour, we'll be back in again. Me, Fabian, and me, Jesse, and George will be back in for the last hour, and then we'll bring the rest of the comms team in together for the last sort of half an hour of the race to obviously say goodbye, and hopefully we have a really good, awesome last sort of 30 minutes of the race. So I'm expecting it to be really exciting, considering the races we've done so far. It's, you know, it never seems to fail when we do endurance races. Usually the last half an hour really gets mixed up. So this is when we realise that there is no more pit stops. Well, we say there isn't no more pit stops, but I can give you an example. We did a 2.4 hour race at Spa, and on the final lap, our guy Samir from Racing Redline Motorsport, he managed to get pole position because the guy in front ended up having to go in for a pit one lap before the end of the race. So, and obviously gave our guy the win there. So this could obviously happen today as well. Again, obviously everyone's got tyre limits, you know, so there's tyre set limits. So again, only 9 tyre sets for the 12-hour race. So again, this is really going to mix things up later on. So these guys, when they're definitely going to be running on very worn tyres near the end, like I said, it could be literally down to very minor mistakes to obviously gain position. So yeah, do stay tuned for that. So yeah, 14 minutes and we'll be swapping over from that.
Yeah, you're absolutely not kidding, Simon. That race, to this day, is the reason that my brain broke. There were so many twists and turns in that last 5 minutes alone. It took us, folks, it took us a day to fully understand exactly what had occurred that led to all those different changes in the podium positions. And we're not saying that's going to happen, but we're not saying it isn't going to happen either. Like Simon so eloquently said, you just don't know. You don't have a clue what's going to happen, especially with the tire restrictions and everything to keep it fair. And my goodness, anything, if you want to see how a race, all the different ways a race can end, watch a Redline Motorsports race. It's every time it's something completely different, and it's been excellent thus far. As we continue to plunge into darkness, we still follow Ciriello's car, and as some of you in chat have noticed, and I will now point out as well, he has lost a massive amount of time. He spent he never really recovered from that hairpin close call, did he? He ended up about 2 seconds back, and he was that for several laps, but now he's more like 11 seconds behind the number 12 Mercedes, and doesn't look like he's going to be able to recover on this set of tires. Don't know if maybe there was some damage on the tires, or maybe this is just the way their stints go. Don't really know, but one thing's for sure, he has definitely fallen back off of the podium spots, hasn't he? So it's something to pay attention to, I would say, for the remainder of the race. George, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I think that as we go towards the closing ends of Austin's, I think it's just been great to highlight how good the racing and consistency has been from all our drivers. Touching back just towards the lap times that we've been seeing, I mean, we just see so many best laps being set within that 2-minute mark. Not obviously breaking down into 159s like Kevin Saklari managed to do, but it's quite a few drivers within that top 20 breaking down into that 2-minute mark for their best lap, and even keeping things quite consistent around their lap times the last couple of laps in the darkness. And obviously as the track cools down, it becomes all about managing tire temperatures and all of those kind of things. So I think it's a dynamic race. We didn't get to see the rain that perhaps we wanted to see, but you know, it doesn't matter. You know, if you get a rainy race, that just throws up the order, it changes the way that things work. And we didn't maybe need to see that to have an interesting race. I mean, you guys were here from the start with myself. I mean, the beginning first 3 hours was absolutely insane. You would have thought that was the closing phase of a you know, a sprint race just being repeated time and time again. It was just intensity 9,000, giving us no chance to talk about things. Whilst I just kind of elaborate on about what I think Suzuka has been so far. We just follow on board with Michael Moss in that number 8, currently running in P24. Is this the leader of the AM drivers at the moment for MS Motorsports?
I think it is. I will just double check. Sorry there, JC.
No, you're
It
absolutely
is.
right. It almost certainly is the leader of the AM class. And speak of the devil, and they are in pit road, hard to the line and on the limiter directly. That's what the four ways on that car means. And he'll do a pit stop. And I feel like every time we go to talk about a team or car, they go into the pits, guys. I don't know if that's good or bad.
I mean, if they're going in just to change drivers, that's good, right? If they've gone into the wall because they've been cursed by Jesse Lee from America, then that's bad. You know, to just sum it up, if you've got one of those flow diagrams, I don't know what they're called, in you know, yes, no, yes, no. I'm sorry, I'll stop it, Jesse. You don't have a commentator's curse. I don't want you to believe that you do. We're currently looking at Nick Foster. Sorry, Jesse. Jesse, sorry to cut you off again. I get excited whenever we see real life racing drivers, right? This is part of that 50-50 split for David Perrell's team, the Coach Dave Academy team. Of course, they're currently running in 6th place, so they have done some pit stops, changed up some drivers. Of course, they have changed up their position a couple of times in this race, and now going to be looking to trying to find their way through. And this is the fight for P5. On the inside, Nick Foster goes through, does the work, passes past Moya, takes back P5. So just as we said, they were holding down P6, they say no. In fact, we'll go and change that up a bit. And Nick Foster getting the work done in the 888 Aston Martin, and probably going to want some more if he can catch up to Sorello.
So glad we just caught that then as well. I wasn't too sure that was going to happen, that battle. But
you are amazing. I mean, what more can we say?
I was taught well, you see, as an apprentice, so I'm now a Jedi.
Jedi Master, even.
Indeed. These cameras, these rear-facing cameras, I love it because it illuminates the asphalt whenever they brake, and it gives you such a sense of speed and an angle that you typically wouldn't find. You spend so much time looking out the windshield or out the front of vehicles, but to be looking back onto the track, to see the dust fly up like right there and illuminate in the tail lights and the various atmospheric lighting and everything, it's fantastic. It's really nice. So you see right there the asphalt lit up, and then you switch to the front, right, and then you get a really good idea of what the headlights illuminate. And is it just me, or does it feel faster at night?
No, you are right. It kind of gives you that blinker effect. You're just kind of seeing, oh, this is what you're talking about, that asphalt being illuminated by the brake lights. Nick Foster's Aston Martin. It sounds like I just get excited about anything, guys. And if I'm getting excited by illuminating asphalt, you probably question what else I get excited by. And that would be the sounds of this Aston Martin as well. For me, it sounds like every gear shift sounds like the beautiful punching of a punching bag as it rolls through its gears. Really a big fan of this Aston Martin overall, and really loving the nighttime scenes as we see Suzuka from a completely different viewpoint. And if you've seen it this way before, you've been doing sim racing wrong, or your friends have told you that you have to race against them in reverse, because really loving the way that we're catching the action here from the back of the 888 Aston Martin.
We actually had some fun the other day, and you might have caught some of that if you were eagle-eyed on Twitch. But we also had our very own race director and RLM boss, Simon, using those cams to actually drive around. And to say that it was disastrous would be an absolute understatement. It's not the best way to try and get around a racetrack, but whenever you're not driving, they're absolutely fantastic cameras to have, as we are focusing on Nick Foster here. And now we are not focusing on Nick Foster.
Sorry,
focusing on the number 41 Ferrari. No, that's perfectly all right. This is where the fight is anyway, as Hudson is not under attack. He is attacking Batty for a 10th place position, or at least he was until Batty disappeared up the road there a little bit. Look at the Porsche in a straight line on the straight. He is gone.
Where do you see a Porsche, Jesse? Because if you see
that
a
is
Porsche,
a BMW. That is exactly what I meant to say. Do you know why I thought that was a Porsche? We have a Porsche in America
it's-
that races in IMSA that has that basic livery, and I was attracted to that, and now I see a Porsche. Just so you know.
Yeah, you are right. We have found a Porsche. I mean, that was Simon really satisfying my need to get some Porsche in me because we haven't had Porsche in a while. So we're getting a little fix here as we look back at, I believe, that's Malmstrom's Porsche, the black and gold livery. He's the current driver for it. On board again with Kieran Hudson facing
Oh,
forward.
look at the dirt.
There was, I mean, it gives, imagine in VR from this perspective, you would have tried to duck under the screen. But yeah, Hudson trying to close down that gap towards Batty in that horrendously fast M6. It seems to be just yeeting its way around at the moment. And yeah, not quite on the back of him at the moment.
I just have to jump in here as well because I don't know if you was in the chat yesterday, George, when I was setting up these cameras for the splitter. But obviously, I was having to actually drive in this view to make sure, obviously, the splitter wasn't going through the ground and stuff like that. And it's actually quite entertaining for the guys that are obviously watching this as well to see me having to drive around Suzuka in every car in this camera view.
No, I didn't get to see that, but I could imagine how much entertainment I have missed out on. And I'm a little bit sad that Jesse didn't DM me to say that I should come back to try and watch you endure driving from this perspective.
Well, it's because I couldn't catch my breath. I was laughing so hard. Do you know he invalidated 12 out of 12 laps trying to do that? It is difficult because look at this car bounce off the curves. I talked about this earlier in the first stint that we did about how some of the cars didn't bounce off the curbs at all, and this one in particular, the Ferrari, we were on board with the number 41 Ferrari for Hooligan Club Racing Pro. That thing just, the Ferrari's characteristics are completely different. Its dynamics is different. It hits the curbs and it's a violent thing. And but yeah, to watch Simon drive in the first-person perspective for science,
Can
it
I
was
ask
very funny.
something?
Yes.
Simon didn't trust any of you guys enough to actually get you to drive, and he just spectated you. So I mean, he just decided to do it himself. I mean, that reflects more on who was in there.
I don't blame him in that respect. Why would you want me to drive when we can have him do it? That's fantastic. I haven't won 5 races in a row. Simon has.
Yeah.
This is true. Simon gets to, before we hand back, Simon gets to have a little humble brag that he is definitely the most talented of the 3 of us in this comms box at the moment.
Oh God, really?
To the sim driving.
George, I
Definitely.
think that's brilliant. I would not disagree with you. He's definitely more talented than me.
Yeah, well, it doesn't take much to be more than me. So Simon, I don't know if it's a freebie or not, but you are the champion of the 3 of us.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, so I got actually the last race on Monday for that championship. So that's the Audi TT VLN championship I'm doing in Race Room. Yeah, I was quite surprised actually to get 5.
Simon,
Yes.
Simon, I have to tell you something.
Go on.
Have you seen who's ready for an interview? Just as we have to hand back.
Oh,
As
right.
Jesse's seen who's here.
Yeah, I think. Go on.
I feel like this is Jesse's doing. And,
No, I think that they are queuing for Fabian Schmidberger. I think
You're actually
I think
not
that
wrong.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic to have Eris coming up interview. Eris was in the car earlier when we talked to Gergo. Of course, Eris is a Kunos dev as well. Can't wait to hear that interview. That's coming up right after the broadcaster change. Don't go anywhere. You won't have to go anywhere. It'll be seamless for you. At the worst, you have to hit F5. But it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have one of the other Kunos devs in for that as we continue to show you images. I love this camera, by the way. This camera, the carbon fiber on the top and the bottom, showing you exactly what a snail would see. And gosh, what a view!
Absolutely. So.
Carbon fiber. Sorry, Simon, you go ahead.
Absolutely. I'm just going to say, obviously, we've got just minute 25 seconds left before we do swap over to Comms Team 2 to take over the stream. So as I said, guys, in about a minute or so time, me, Jesse, and George will be disappearing for about another 2.5 hours, and then we'll be back again for the last hour of the race. So do stay on the channel because it'll take about 10 seconds for me to close the stream down and Ryan to start the next stream up. So yeah, Comms Team 2 will be Ryan, Fabian, and Nick again in there. So yeah, in literally about just under a minute now, we will be swapping over. So that's if nothing else is going on. There's no battles going on right now I can see of. So we should be safe to change over without missing anything. So there we go. Right. 40 seconds.
Thank you all for, we will be back to end the race. We are going to throw it over to Comms Team 2 here in just a second. Thank you guys for sharing your Saturday with us. I'm having a blast. George?
Yeah. Also, just a quick thanks to everybody for tuning in. We will hand you over to that fantastic Comms Team 2 and see you in a little bit.
You will do, yeah. So in about 16 seconds. So yeah, again, we will be swapping over and we will be back again for the last hour of the race to finish off the 12-hour race today. So yeah, thanks for obviously everyone staying there to come and watch this race today. So we'll do the swap over now.